Guys, today modern AI is quite advanced, except two problems. It is censored and it takes your information. Well, it's hard to find a tech company that don't, but let me introduce you to one. Shout out to my sponsor, Venice AI, which allows you to protect your information and avoid censorship. Now ask yourself, why should a team of programmers at these leading AI apps be the ones to decide what is okay for you to ask and think? Also, would you be comfortable if the presidential administration could govern what AI tells you? Man, I know I wouldn't. But also, while you think about that, did you know that? Let me tell you this, it's gonna be crazy, but ChatGPT has a former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now, guys. And shout out to that man, Edward Snowden. He called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. And we all know how Alexa is. Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. I mean, talk about a violation of privacy. But guys, these are just a few reasons I decided to team up with Venice AI and get you a better options or solutions to your AI needs. Now, guys, you can go ahead and check these guys out with my promo code. So shout out to Venice AI. Now, if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or government, you can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, Venice AI S.E.T, and use the code S.E.T. Man, so shout out, guys. So make sure you guys use the code. Put it one more time for you guys right there. Once again, guys, if you guys want to go ahead and have unleashed AI, uncensored AI, go ahead and tap in with my guys at Venice AI, guys. Hey, this is S.E.T and appreciate the support. And shout out to the sponsor. And let's get right to it, guys. Yo, this is S.E.T with S.E.T Media, guys, and I'm back with another one for you guys. And shout out to the sponsor and for the two guys who signed up for Venice AI. Appreciate the support, guys. Now, let's get right into it because Trump appoints to somebody. He makes an announcement, and it's courts versus Trump round 2. I mean, they lost the immigration battle, but now they're over here trying to fight the tariffs. All right, guys, let's get right into it.
So today we're honored to swear in Janine Piro, somebody I've known for a long time, and she's an incredible person, an incredible woman, as our new interim United States Attorney for the District of Columbia. That's a big deal. And I'd like to congratulate Janine and her whole family. And we have Christine with us, and Alex, I know, is in a very, very important place right now. And the two children, but they're not children anymore. And I've heard that Christine, you're doing unbelievably well and very successful at a great law firm. So it's great to have you with us. Thank you very much. Over 5 decades, Janine Piro, known by millions as Judge Janine, has devoted her life to the pursuit of justice, the defense of freedom, and the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. And that's what she's about. She was a great DA. I remember very well. She was as good as anybody I've seen.
And I'll give it to her, like a great Fox News anchor. Like, of course, I don't agree with her fully, but I do like her opinions.
She began a career in 1975 as an assistant district attorney in Westchester County, New York, where she prosecuted violent crimes. And that was a serious prosecution. And she went after real criminals, not fake criminals like we seem to do today nowadays, people that shouldn't be prosecuted, including rape, murder, and was a tireless warrior on behalf of the most vulnerable people in our society. In that role, Janine helped create one of our country's first domestic violence bureaus. I think it was the first, Janine. And as its chief, she revolutionized victim protection and bold, innovative policies like very few people even thought of. In 1990, Janine became the first female judge in Westchester County history. And following the year, and by the way, very distinguished, had an unbelievable distinguished career. And in the following years, she presided over numerous complex criminal cases. The reason they were complex is that other judges were not able to understand them. They were called the complex cases. My sister had them too. They always used to give her the complex cases because other people didn't understand them, including high-stakes felony narcotics trials. Her outstanding judicial record earned her the honor of being named the #1 judge in 1990 by the Independent Fund for Modern Courts. That's nationwide. Outstanding judge. The following year, Judge Janine was elected Westchester County District Attorney, became the top prosecutor for a jurisdiction that included some of the largest suburbs in New York City, including Yonkers and White Plains. It's a big deal. As district attorney, Janine tackled high-profile violent crime cases and established one of the nation's most successful cybercrime units to combat online child abuse. She was way ahead of a lot of people. They still aren't there. If you get right down, I mean, from what I hear, they're still not there in many cases back there where we come from. In addition to her stellar legal career, Janine also excelled in news media as you know, and she's become one of the most beloved political figures through her time on television, because she's been very, very successful at a thing called television. She got out of what she was doing, and frankly, she does them both great, but she's really, to me, she'll always be known as a great lawyer and a great prosecutor, which is what she's doing now. So Janine Piro, I have no doubt, will be an exceptional U.S. attorney for the District of Columbia, one of the truly most important positions in our country, of any position, where she will restore public safety in our nation's capital, break up vicious street gangs and criminal networks, and ensure equal justice under the law. You'll see very, very big improvements in the D.C. area, that I can promise you. So I want to congratulate Janine. I want to congratulate you and Christine.
And the DC area is one area that definitely needs improvement. I mean, anybody in DC will tell you it's not looking good in DC. Like, I mean, the only thing looking good in DC is the White House.
And your whole family on this undertaking. And as you know, Pam Bondi is doing an unbelievable job as our real leader in the fight against crime. And Pam heard about this, and Pam said, I'll have to find time for Janine. She doesn't have time to do this, but for Janine, she did, and she's going to be doing the swearing in. So, Pam, thank you very much for the great job you're doing and for swearing in our friend, Justice Janine. Good. Thank you. Come on up.
Pam Bondi's still one of my least favorite Trump appointees because, like I said, I mean, she completely flopped the Epstein files and all that good stuff. So, yeah, until then, I don't know. But she's doing all right with the immigrants, though. I'll give her that.
I do solemnly swear. I, Janine Piro.
Oh, guys, let's make sure we double tap that screen and like the video. Let's get more people on the conversation. Appreciate the support, guys.
Solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same. And that I take this obligation freely. And that I take this obligation freely. Without any mental reservation. Without any mental reservation. Or purpose of evasion. Or purpose of evasion. And that I will well and faithfully. And that I will well and faithfully. Discharge the duties. Discharge the duties. Of the office upon which I am about to enter. Of the office upon which I am about to enter. So help me God. So help me God. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Madam Attorney General, both my friends for many years. Long ago, I went to law school to study about justice and to bring justice to victims of violent crimes, women, children, and the elderly. I fought to give them a voice in a system that was both blind and deaf to their concerns. I dedicated my heart and soul to making sure that there was a system that responded to them. My profile and my prosecutorial successes garnered public attention, and my life took unexpected turns. Through all of this, President Trump, you have remained as steadfast as one of my earliest supporters and champions. You never wavered. You were always steadfast, trustworthy, and confident. Today, Mr. President, you bring me back to my roots. And it is a larger arena, but no less an arena.
I mean, yeah, this is like the second person he's brung out of Fox. Like, yes, she's a Fox News anchor. So is Pete Hegseth. Now, Pete Hegseth is, defense secretary. Well, and, now she got a job in the Trump administration. So shout out to the both of them. And yes, they both have a history. Well, she definitely has a history of doing this, a really established one and a really decorated one.
Where we need justice, where we need to send a message that justice will be honored in the District of Columbia. And just last week, here in our nation's capital, two people on the brink of beginning their life had hopes and dreams that were never realized because a cold-blooded murderer made a decision to shoot them down on the streets on a cold, rainy night in our nation's capital.
It was the two Israeli ambassadors, but they were a couple. And one was American, one was Israeli, but that doesn't even matter. The fact of the matter is that it was done by one of these pro-Palestinian radicals or pro-Hamas radicals, and just went out there and just killed those two for no reason, really. And then he said he did it for Gaza. And now I'm just looking at the man like, dog, this does nothing for Gaza, but honestly makes it worse on them.
This will not go without just accounting. My voice should be heard loud and clear. No more tolerance of hatred, no more mercy for criminals. Violence will be addressed directly with the appropriate punishment. And this city will again become a shining city on a hill in an America that President Trump has promised to make great again and will make safe again. Mr. President, America thanks you, and I thank you.
Any questions for Janine? Any questions? Oh boy. Anything for Janine?
You just want to talk to him. I get it. Thank you.
She's going to be fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank
There
you
really-
all. Thank
There's
you.
no question because there's no doubt. We have no doubt you're going to be fantastic.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Mr. President, Mr. President, Mr. President,
Yeah, please.
Mr. President.
On Russia, Mr. President?
Please.
Do you believe the Russians are being disrespectful when they say that your criticisms of Putin are simply an emotional response? And do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that.
I can't tell you either. What I can tell you is that, what the media in America is not telling you right now is that, there was an assassination attempt on Putin while he was in his helicopter. And word on the global streets is that it was conducted by NATO. And due to the fact that Putin almost lost his life, he did a complete missile swarm with drones on Ukraine, pretty much kind of just saying, F it, I'm just going to take it now because he feels like he can't trust Ukraine or NATO to work out anything, honestly. And I know, right? We're talking about the guy who we think or who we perceive is the one dodging peace deals, but we just try to assassinate this man midway through, trying to work out a peace deal. What do you think is going to happen?
But I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, we're going to find out very soon. We're going to find out whether or not he's tapping us along or not. And if he is, we'll respond a little bit differently. But it'll take about a week and a half, 2 weeks. We have Mr. Witkoff is here, who's doing a phenomenal job, is dealing with them very strongly right now. They seem to want to do something, but until the document is signed, I can't tell you. Nobody can. I can say this. That I'm very disappointed at what happened a couple of nights now, where people were killed in the middle of what you would call a negotiation. I'm very disappointed by that. Very, very disappointed. Yeah, please.
A negotiation and then followed by like a prisoner swap. Yeah. Okay. So Russia and Ukraine had a prisoner swap. Their soldiers for their soldiers, and everything was all good. They even had a nice little photo op. And then, I believe after Putin is leaving, that is when the assassination attempt commenced. And after that, like I said, Putin then commenced, just rolling out missile strikes on Ukraine.
You've called for an end to the Gaza war, given the
is not a
growing
good
humanitarian crisis and the decision of Prime Minister Netanyahu to expand the military operation. Do you have any frustration with his handling of the situation of the war?
No, we're dealing with the whole situation in Gaza. We're getting food to the people of Gaza. It's been a very nasty situation, very nasty fight. October 7th was a very nasty day. The worst.
I mean, yes, they've let in what was it? Well, privately owned camps. So yeah, they're going to be administering aid, but it's going to be private companies that's doing it, owned by either America or Israel. I'm like, you kind of see the yeah, I know. It worries me too. I honestly do not understand why we just can't let, the humanitarian services or organizations get in there. But then, that'd be exposing these guys to, media, being exposed by the media or by stories that, might leave outside of those camps. I know. And they called them, bro, didn't they were one word away from concentration camps, but I forgot what they called them.
That I think I've ever seen. It was a horrible day, and people aren't going to forget that either. So we'll see how that all works out. And Steve, would you want to say a couple of words about Gaza because you just have some information? Steve Witkoff, do you want to come up for a second? You might give them a little bit of information as to what's happening with Gaza and also Israel. We're having some very good talks with Iran. We'll find out whether that means anything, but we're having good talks.
Congratulations. Well, hi everybody. I think that we are on the precipice of sending out a new term sheet that hopefully will be delivered later on today. The president is going to review it, and I have some very good feelings about getting to a long-term resolution, temporary ceasefire, and a long-term resolution, a peaceful resolution of that conflict.
Oh yes, the camps that they're putting them in Gaza is called displacement camps. Yeah, that's what they're putting them in Gaza to receive their aid.
Mr. President, you said
It's having to do with Iran. We're having very good talks with
Mr. President, you said yesterday that Putin is playing with fire. What will be the consequences for Russia if Russia continues?
Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly, but the words speak pretty loud.
Well, guys, over 100 y'all in here, man. Do me a favor, double tap that screen, man. Let's get more people on the conversation. Appreciate the support, by the way. But let's make sure to double tap that screen. All right, let's keep it going, guys.
We're not happy about that situation. I think we're doing very well with Iran. I think we're doing very well with Gaza, but we are doing very well with Iran, and I think we're going to see something very sensible, because there are only two outcomes. You know what the two outcomes is: a smart outcome and there's a violent outcome, and I don't think anybody wants to see the second. But I think we've made a lot of progress, and we'll see. They still have to agree to the final stages of a document. But I think
but right now Iran has been told to be playing hardball still, and what I've heard, like I said, word on the global streets is that they've rejected even some concessions. So I'm wondering what these concessions that the Trump camp made and why did Iran reject them, and that's kind of leads to the duplicity of their actions. It's like, all right, guys, so come on now, do you guys actually have a bomb? Because at this point, you're playing hardball for a reason.
I think you could be very well surprised what happens there, and it'd be a great thing for them. They could have a great country into the future. Yeah.
Mr. President, Elon Musk in a television interview criticized the one beautiful bill, saying he was disappointed it didn't cut enough, essentially, that it undercut the DOGE efforts. What's your reaction to that?
Well, the reaction's a lot of things. Number one, we have to get a lot of votes. We can't be cutting. We need to get a lot of support, and we have a lot of support. We had to get it through the House. The House was. We have no Democrats. If it's up to the Democrats, they'll.
But certain Republicans want $6 trillion more in cuts. Yes, there are certain Republicans that want $6 trillion more in cuts. They want to go back to pre-COVID spending.
Take the 65% increase. If that doesn't get approved, this country is going to have a 65% increase in taxes and lots of other problems, big problems, almost bigger than that. But we'll have a 65% increase as opposed to the largest tax cut in the history of our country. We will be negotiating that bill, and I'm not happy about certain aspects of it, but I'm thrilled by other aspects of it. That's the way they go. It's very big. It's the big, beautiful bill. But the beautiful is because of all of the things we have. The biggest thing being, I would say, the level of tax cutting that we're going to be doing. We're going to make people really be able to, we'll have the lowest tax rate we've ever had in the history of our country, and tremendous amounts of benefit are going to the middle income people of our country, low and middle income people of our country. So we're going to see what happens, because the Senate, as you know, is negotiating with us, and they have to then go back to the House, and, you know, it's got a way to go. But I have to say, Speaker Johnson and Thune have done an incredible job. John Thune has done a fantastic, Leader Thune, a fantastic job, and they're working together with me and others. And I think we have an amazing, if we pull this off, remember, we have 0 Democrat votes because they're bad people. There's something wrong with them. You know, they'll let people pour into our country. Single biggest problem is we had 21 million people pour into our country, probably higher than that. And they're people that weren't supposed to be here. And many of those people are bad. Murderers, drug dealers, the mentally insane.
Yeah, and the left wants us to give them all a court date so they can appeal it all day, all 21 million of them, huh?
They were closing mental institutions all over the world, not South America, all over the world. They're coming into our country, and we're getting them out. And we're having a hard time because some judges aren't making it very easy for us, and it's tough enough. They approved that. They allowed that to happen to our country. We don't have one Democrat vote. And if I were a Democrat, I'd be voting for this bill, and I'd get elected to any position I want as a Democrat. They're crazy. They're voting for a 65% tax increase, and they're only doing it for hatred. They're not doing it for any reason. They know it's terrible politics, in my opinion. But so we have no Democrat votes. That means we have to get almost all Republican votes. And I think we're very close to doing that. I think it'll be very successful. Yeah, please.
No, the Democrats were sitting down on this one. One, they were already mad about the cuts that were made. They were already mad about that. But the fact that the Republicans are like, no, we haven't cut enough. We want to cut $6 trillion more. I'm just like, okay, like, please, like, break it down. From where?
Mr. President, Wall Street analysts have coined a new
I'm
term
all
called
for it.
taco trading. They're saying Trump always chickens out on your tariff threats, and that's why markets are higher this week. What's your response to that?
I kick out?
Chicken out.
Oh, and then I chicken out. I've never heard that. You mean because I reduced China from 145% that I set down to 100 and then down to another number? And I said you have to open up your whole country. And because I gave the European Union a 50% tax tariff, and they called up and they said, please, let's meet right now. Please, let's meet right now. And I said, okay, I'll give you till Janine. I actually asked them, I said, what's the date? Because they weren't willing to meet. And after I did what I did, they said, we'll meet anytime you want. And we have an end date of July 9th. You call that chickening out? Because we have $14 trillion.
And here's the thing. The media tried to say that Trump had a, Trump taco deals, which means it's an acronym for, what was it? Trump always chickens out. I know, taco. I'll give it to you guys. The Dems, that's actually pretty funny. I'll give you that. But no, this man has never backed down on none of the trade deals. That's the funniest part. They always say he flinched, he chickened out, when actually it's the other countries around us that are flinching and honestly bending the knee.
Is now invested, committed to investing when Biden didn't have practically anything. This country was dying. You know, we have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I went to Saudi Arabia. The king told me, he said, you got the hottest we have the hottest country in the world right now. 6 months ago, this country was stone cold dead. We had a dead country. We had a country people didn't think it was going to survive. And you ask a nasty question like that. It's called negotiation. You set a number. And if you go down, if I set a number at a ridiculous high number and I go down a little bit, they want me to hold that number, 145% tariff. Even I said, man, that really got up. You know how it got? Because of fentanyl. And
actually, here's the thing. They cried when he brought it up, and then they cry when he bring it down. So he brings it up. Oh, he's being crazy. He's outrageous. He brings it down. Oh, man, he's a sucker, man. Wow, you chickened out, Trump. Like, hold on. You guys were crying when it went up. Now it goes down. I thought you guys would be like, whoo, okay, good. We're straight, guys. You know what? Trump might have shown us some relief there. Nope. Nope. Now you have the opposite opinion. Just be like, nah, you chickened out. Nah, you should have went full throttle. You really should have went 400. I don't know why you stopped with 145. Like the Dems, make up your mind.
Many other things, and you added it up. I said, where are we now? We're at 145%. I said, whoa, that's high. That's high. They were doing no business whatsoever, and they were having a lot of problems. We were very nice to China. I don't know if they're going to be nice to us, but we were very nice to China. And in many ways, I think we really helped China tremendously because, they were having great difficulty because we were basically going cold turkey with China. We were doing no business because of the tariff, because it was so high. But I knew that.
Yeah, no, trust me. A lot of people underestimated our effect on, Chinese exports. A lot of people just say we're about 15 to 16% of their exports, when really we're about 30% because, we didn't really count the ones that they were sending to Vietnam and Mexico to send into America. Yeah, we didn't count those one in that 15%. So really we were 30. And when that dried up, a lot of companies shut down. A lot of people got laid off. And then honestly, China's banks are honestly starting to fail right now, which will hit you guys soon. Trust me, you'll hear about it.
But don't ever say what you said. That's a nasty question. Go ahead. To me, that's the nastiest question. Wait a minute. Wait. Go ahead, please.
President Zelensky says he's ready to sit down with you and Vladimir Putin in Geneva, and it sounds like General Kellogg is working on preparations for that. Are you planning to sit down with the two of them?
Well, I will if it's necessary. We have to. I think I'm at this point. I wish it would have been that way a couple of months ago, but at this point, we're working on President Putin, and we'll see where we are. I think we're doing fine, but we'll see. I don't like what's happening. That's one thing I'll say. I don't like when I see rockets being shot into cities. That's no good. We're not going to allow it.
You've always said that the war never would have started if you were
Would have never
president,
happened, and it didn't
He doesn't
happen.
seem willing to do anything that you want him to do. Do you still believe that he wouldn't have launched the war?
No, we would have never had a war. We would have never had a war. If I were president, if the election weren't rigged, you wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had the war. You wouldn't have had inflation. You wouldn't have had October 7th. That would have never happened because Iran was stone cold broke. They didn't have any money to give to Hamas or Hezbollah. You wouldn't have had that Afghanistan most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. You wouldn't have had any of it. You wouldn't have had inflation because energy costs. Look what happened. I brought inflation down to practically zero. And all of the groceries and all of the eggs and all of the things that you've been hearing about, they're back down. They're way down from where they were. I did something in 4 months that nobody's seen. And
I mean, here's the thing. They did say tariffs were inflationary. And then the problem is when inflation went down, then they wanted to just stick to the argument of, they raised prices. And that right there was just hilarious. I mean, the backpedal of the Democratic Party, or I'll say the backpedal of the left-leaning media is astounding.
And I have to say, in 4 months, and I said it before, and everyone's talking about it all over the world, we've got the hottest country anywhere in the world right now. We're the only country anybody's even talking about. All right, please go ahead.
What stops you from imposing new sanctions on Russia?
Only the fact that if I think I'm close to getting a deal, I don't want to screw it up by doing that. Let me tell you, I'm a lot tougher than the people you're talking about, but you have to know when to use that. If I think it's going to hurt a deal, this isn't my war. This is Biden's war, Zelensky's war, and Putin's war. This isn't Trump's war. I'm only here for one thing, to see if I can end it, to save 5,000 lives a week and a lot of money. The money being much less important because I made that money. I went to Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and UAE, and we brought back $5.1 trillion.
Like, to be honest, and he also went into war. One, people stopped dying, and it'd be a perfect opportunity to utilize the trade deal that we got with, or the rare earth mineral deal that we have with Ukraine, and then we can also work something out with Russia. But here's the thing: we can't do that if Russia just takes Ukraine, that kind of just gets thrown out the window for us.
So I made that money in about 2 hours, the money that we're talking about, but it's still think of it, $300 billion we've spent with no checks, no balances. They just send cash. You can imagine what's happened to that money. I never saw anything like it in my life, but I'm more interested because I picked up $5.1 trillion. And by the way, got a beautiful, big, magnificent, free airplane for the United States Air Force. Okay. Very proud of that too. They tried to say, oh, it's Trump's airplane. Oh, yeah, sure. It's too big. It's frankly, it's too big, much too big.
That would be the Air Force One.
Well, it's here already.
Yeah.
It's in the country. It's being refitted for military standard.
How much will it cost to refit it?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever it is, a hell of a lot less than building a new one. We're waiting too long from Boeing. Boeing has got to get its act together. Yeah.
Sir, on Nippon Steel, this arrangement that was just announced in the
Yeah.
golden share, is that an arrangement you would consider for TikTok as well?
Nothing to do with TikTok. Totally different kind of a deal. We'll have to get, to do it properly, we'll probably have to get China's approval.
Yeah,
China's
true.
never easy. China's never easy. But I think we'll be able to save TikTok. I'd like to save TikTok. I mean, TikTok was very good to me. I won the young people by 37%. No Republicans ever won. And I
I
won.
don't know. China's going through its own problems. China got leadership problems. Everybody's mad at Xi because, well, they feel like, well, you pissed Trump off. This is why you put the tariffs on us, and now our economy is upside down. And well, they're defaulting on a lot of things here. Like, here's the thing: their tax revenue is not enough to pay their debts no more. So they're in that like nightmare situation that everybody pretty much tries to, fearmonger on the American people about tariffs.
Won by 37%. And Charlie Kirk will tell you TikTok helped, but Charlie Kirk helped also. He just happens to be here. Look at him. He loves that we mentioned that name, right, Charlie? He's done great. And I appreciate all the help. But with young people, we won by 37%, Charlie. And you helped, but TikTok was amazing. And he was the first one. He said, get on TikTok. So I have a little bit of a warm spot. I know I shouldn't. They'll say quid pro quo, put him in jail for the rest of his life, quid pro quo. No, TikTok was very good to me. I won young people. I don't know if it was because of TikTok, but it was something happened. No Republican has ever won they call them young people. Young people, you can define it a lot of different ways, but I won every age group in young people. And it never happened, and won by 37%. That's a lot. Yeah.
President, back on Iran, did you warn Prime Minister Netanyahu against taking some sort of actions that could disrupt the talks there in a phone call last week?
Well, I'd like to be honest. Yes, I did. Next question, please.
Sanctions.
I did. Yeah.
If Senate Republicans want to push
It's not a warning. I said I don't think it's appropriate.
What exactly did you tell him? Did
I
you
just said
caution
I
him?
don't think it's appropriate. We're having very good discussions with him, and I said I don't think it's appropriate right now, because if we can settle it with a very strong document, very strong, with inspections and no trust. I don't trust anybody. So no trust. I want it very strong where we can go in with inspectors. We can take whatever we want. We can blow up whatever we want, but nobody getting killed. We can blow up a lab, but nobody's going to be in the lab, as opposed to everybody being in the lab and blowing it up, right? Mm-hmm. Two ways of doing it. I told him this would be inappropriate to do right now because we're very close to a solution. Now, that could change at any moment, could change with a phone call. But right now, I think they want to make a deal. And if we can make a deal, save a lot of lives.
When do you think a deal could happen on Iran?
On which?
A deal with Iran could happen.
I don't know. I think over the next couple of weeks, if it happens. Yeah.
And on when could the administration resume the interviews for foreign students visa? When do you think your administration could resume these interviews?
On what?
For the foreign student visa. Yesterday there was
for the French visa.
For the French too, but
all the foreigners.
Oh, for the foreign.
I don't know about that. Due to what's been coming out of China, they pretty much use their foreign students to, run spy work. So the Chinese students, they don't get to come over here no more. Now, the rest of them, be honest with you, I don't have a problem with the Chinese foreign students since, reading that. Other than that, the rest of them is honestly cool. So I don't really understand why they're pausing all of them. But I can understand now if it's Harvard, I understand every reason why. And then also, here's the thing. Why are we getting mad about, I don't know, like slots being, opened up for American students. You ever think about it like that? Oh, the foreigners, we need the foreigners to take the slots away from the American students. Yes, we want foreigners to take opportunity away from American students. How do you guys sound at the end of the day?
Visas? What are you referring? Foreign visas for what? Are you talking about for colleges? Okay, so you're off of Israel. Now you're talking about colleges, right?
Yes, no.
Okay. Well, we're going to see. Look, Harvard has been a disaster. They've taken $5 billion plus. $5 billion. Nobody knew that they were making this kind. If we didn't do this, we would have never found this out, Pam. They're taking $5 billion. And I'd rather see that money go to trade schools. And by the way, they're totally anti-Semitic at Harvard, as you know, and some other colleges too, in all fairness to them. And it's been exposed, very exposed. And I think they're dealing very badly.
I wouldn't say they're anti-Semitic. I just say they're really anti-Israel. They're really anti-Israel. But the fact that they do kind of take it out under, some of the Jewish students is a bit wild. Now that's wild right there. So that is kind of where they're hemmed up, because there has been violent acts against Jewish students, and that's on Harvard. And the thing is, they got caught up on this before. Like, oh, that one girl, Claudia Gale, like she got fired for this, and they're still on it.
Every time they fight, they lose another $250 million. Yesterday, we found another $100 million. And they have a fund, an endowment, $52 billion. All right. They get a lot of that from the United States. And I think it's ridiculous. I think everyone's coming up to me saying, we love the idea of trade schools with that kind of money, and money from others, but money from them. You can have the best trade schools anywhere in the world. You give them to Iowa, Indiana, lots of good states, well-run states, and you give them the money. They can only be used for trade schools, and they'll teach people how to build motors and cars and AI. The AI, we're building plants. We're building hundreds of billions of dollars worth of AI plants, already started, many of them. We've never had a boom like we're having now. You're going to see it. There's never been anything like it. So we're up to about $14 trillion in investments. There's never been anything even close. You look at Biden, this guy, they had people leaving as opposed to investing. And they're doing.
I ain't gonna lie, he would have to break down the more, I would say, hands-on engineering, to a trade school. You'd have to break it down, let it be more hands-on, and we'd be able to pop out more engineers, electricians, etc.
It because of November 5th, and they're doing it because of the tariffs. The tariffs have been tremendous. I can promise you, and I have great respect for the people at the European Union, they wouldn't be over here today negotiating if I didn't put a 50% tariff on. The sad thing is now when I make a deal with them, it's something much more reasonable. They'll say, oh, he was chicken. That's so unbelievable. Bruh. I usually have the opposite problem. They say, you're too tough.
Mr. President, on Harvard, there were some Jewish students protesting on campus yesterday. They said they don't want you making these huge cuts, cutting off student visas to Harvard in their name, because they feel
Harvard
like
has to show us. Okay, Harvard has to show us their lists.
I know. Well, it does go to show that there are Israelis or Jewish people who also does not agree what's going on in Israel. I mean, yes, there's a lot of people who are Jewish who don't agree with what Israel's doing in Gaza, and they also consider it a genocide. So it's not just an American or an Islamic sentiment. It's also, a sentiment held, or honestly, an accusation held by Jewish people as well. So, hey, you can't really call us anti-Semitic if your own people is pointing the finger too.
They have foreign students. About 31% of their students are foreign-based, almost 31%. We want to know where those students come. Are they troublemakers? What countries do they come? And we're not going to, if somebody is coming from a certain country and they're 100% fine, which I hope most of them are, but many of them won't be, you're going to see some very radical people. They're taking people from areas of the world that are very radicalized, and we don't want them making trouble in our country. So I saw yesterday that in the middle of the UK, there was a nice young man. He wants to go back to school at Harvard, and he looked good to me, but I want to check his past. But we want to be able to see why, these countries aren't helping us. They're not investing in Harvard and all of we are. So why would 31%, why would a number so big? I think, number one, I think they should have a cap of maybe around 15%, not 31%. We have people want to go to Harvard and other schools. They can't get in.
Yeah, and the reason why is because Harvard makes the foreign student pay top dollar. So I don't know, the American students probably get in there for about 50K or a year. I know, right? 50K a year. And then you probably got your foreigners coming in for about 60 to 65K a year.
Because we have foreign students there. But I want to make sure that the foreign students are people that can love our country. Great. We don't want to see shopping centers exploding. We don't want to see the kind of riots that you had. And I'll tell you what, many of those students didn't go anywhere. Many of those students were troublemakers caused by the radical left lunatics in this country. All right, one more question.
President,
go ahead, please.
Will you pardon the people who are accused of conspiring to kidnap Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer?
I'm going to look at it. I will take a look at it. It's been brought to my attention. I did watch the trial. It looked to me like somewhat of a railroad job. I'll be honest with you. It looked to me like some people said some stupid things. They were drinking, and I think they said stupid things. But I'll take a look at that. And a lot of people are asking me that question from both sides, actually. A lot of people think they got railroaded. A lot of people think they got railroaded. And probably some people don't. One more. Go ahead.
How will the confrontation with Harvard end? You will see.
I don't know. I don't know. Harvard's got to behave themselves. Harvard is treating our country with great disrespect, and all they're doing is getting in deeper and deeper and deeper. They've got to behave themselves. I'm looking out for the country and for Harvard. I want Harvard to do well. I want Harvard to be great again, probably, because how could it be great? How could it be great when you have Harvard announced 2 weeks ago that they're going to teach remedial mathematics, remedial, meaning they're going to teach.
And shout out to my man, Benjamin Choker. He says, I am Jewish. I'm also going to college in the fall. I am really nervous about the whole situation. I hope everything will be okay. Look, brother, man, don't worry. You'll be just fine. I would say this. I'll say this. The one, don't go looking for trouble. Don't go looking for trouble. If you see these guys being hella outspoken on your campus, just go the other direction. Don't engage with them, because these are guys that are not honestly want to talk to you, to be quite honest. And you might even share the same beliefs as them, but just don't walk into trouble. Trust me, I want you to be safe while you're going to school and achieving success. So like I said, I would I would advise, one of my, I would say, YNs, look, just turn away from that violence, turn away from that, all that adversity, and focus on yourself. It's trust me, you don't want to let that affect your personal life.
Teach low-grade mathematics, like 2 + 2 is 4. How did these people get into Harvard if they can't do basic mathematics? How did they do it? I mean, people with 1,600 in their boards don't get in, and they're letting people in, and they're bragging about how they're teaching them basic mathematics. Where did these people come from? So we have to look at the list, and Harvard has to understand the last thing I want to do is hurt them. They're hurting themselves. They're fighting. Columbia has been really, and they were very, very bad what they've done. They're very anti-Semitic and lots of other things, but they're working with us on finding a solution.
And it also depends on where your college leans. Harvard is extremely left leaning. Harvard probably, I would say, and this is a guesstimate, I'd probably say they have like a 60-70% liberals there. I'm talking about staff and students included. All of them are liberals. So if you're going to a mostly liberal school, you're gonna run into those people. If you go to more of a mix, you most likely won't, or mainly a conservative school, then you'll be okay. You'll be okay. Trust me, you'll be actually welcomed with open arms. Conservatives are going to be your best friends at this point.
Now, as you all probably know, you've got a star-studded lineup here today, including several of my colleagues in the Trump administration.
And shout out to my man Fox Shay. He said, Benjamin, take up martial arts, keep your head on a swivel, don't back down. On God, hey man, they do try to do something crazy. Well, one, whoop their ass. Yeah, whoop their ass, and also make sure to report their ass because yeah, like they gotta go to jail, my friend.
Going to jail. Lock his ass up. Lock his ass up. You're going to jail. You're going to jail. Your ass going to jail.
And they say we're anti-Semitic. Crazy.
David, Bo, Hester, I know you're all out there. It's great to be among so many friends and allies. So I want to speak for just a few minutes about a few things, and I want to talk a little bit about what we've done in the Trump administration. I want to give you a rundown of what this administration is doing on digital assets policy, but I also want to talk about some of the principles that help guide us as we develop this policy. But before that,
I wonder if he's talking about the Genius Act, because I know a lot of crypto, well, the crypto gang guys, those guys were really upset when Congress didn't let that through. And I mean, they were pretty much trying to say that they were trying to create a stable coin through the American dollar and then trying to make it like a one world stable coin, you know, kind of what the globalists were planning. Crazy,
I want to speak about why I'm personally optimistic about crypto and what it means for the American people. Now, people ask me why I tend to be bullish on the future of innovation in this country. Now, I spent enough time in Silicon Valley to recognize the difference between good tech, technology that boosts our productivity, makes our lives richer, that grounds us in the real world and complements our day-to-day lives. That's the good technology, but there's also some bad technology out there. And when it comes to crypto, I think the last several years have made it clear that we're talking about genuine, ground-up innovation, one that's already improving the well-being of tens of millions of our fellow citizens. I believe it's 50 million Americans own Bitcoin, and I believe that's going to be 100 million before too long. But it's not just about Bitcoin and about the value that's been generated, the wealth that's been generated by so many millions of our fellow citizens. Through decentralized finance, crypto has transformed how Americans transact with one another. It's expanded access to banking for many who may not otherwise have had it. And every single day, I feel like I see some groundbreaking new use of blockchain tech, whether it's in supply chain management, whether it's in hospitals, or whether it's in changing how we track and store patients' private health records.
Or banking.
But for each of these new forward-looking applications, I also feel like there's an incredibly conservative element to crypto technology, and that's as a hedge. Crypto is a hedge against bad policymaking from Washington, no matter what party is in control. It's a hedge against skyrocketing inflation, which has eroded the savings rate of Americans over the last 4 years. And as you all know well, it's a hedge against a private sector that's increasingly willing to discriminate against consumers on the basis of their basic beliefs, including their politics. That includes, of course, debanking users for Second Amendment advocacy or for ties to the first Trump administration. In Canada, the government did the same to kill those big truck driver protests in 2022. Less than a week later, they succeeded. The protests were over. But maybe most importantly, I see crypto as a hedge against one of the most dangerous trends in the digital era in both the public and private sector. And that's of elites who, rather than innovate themselves, prefer to simply take over and co-opt cutting-edge technologies to assert their control over other people. And I know we believe this in this room. That's not Bitcoin. It'll never be Bitcoin. And you guys are going to make sure that happens.
Yeah, I'm all for the Bitcoin reserve, but I'm not for the whole, Bitcoin. I'm not for the whole stable coin being backed by the American dollar. Yeah, I'm not looking for that. I'm also not with the whole, the whole using the real ID for facial recognition and all that. It kind of sounds like we're setting up for what China's like doing, where you scan your face, you can make a payment with your face. I don't want that. I do not.
But as you know, there's a new sheriff in town because after 4 years of mistreatment and outright hostility led by Democrat regulators, lawmakers in this country have a choice. Will we lead our nation into a future of financial sovereignty, of innovation, and of prosperity, or will we let unelected bureaucrats and foreign competitors write the rules for us? And I'm here today to say loud and clear, with President Trump, crypto finally has a champion and an ally in the White House. In our administration, we understand the full potential of the digital assets industry, not just as an investment, not just as a flashy technology, but as a symbol and driver of personal liberty for all our citizens. And we are dedicated to seeing that promise fulfilled. The way that we see it, the people in this room are the digital pioneers of the American economy. And that's why our administration is doing something a little unusual in Washington. We're listening to all of you as you blaze the trail of innovation. The innovators in this room are making people's lives better. You're pushing boundaries and solving problems, injecting unprecedented transparency into how we do commerce. And the way we see it, you all deserve a similar level of transparency and clarity. And most of all, you deserve respect and support from your government.
I mean, that is true, though. There's a lot of companies that are utilizing crypto technology and honestly just not telling you about it. I mean, especially the banks and them, switching out of Stride and using XRP for, cheaper transactions and all that good stuff. It's actually pretty wild what we're moving into and not even really knowing it.
Not bureaucrats trying to tear you down. Now that means a few substantive concrete steps. And of course, the first and most important of those steps is straightforward. We've got to clean up the wreckage that the last administration left us. And since day one, that is exactly what we've been trying to do. Our administration, we prioritize eliminating the rules, the red tape, and the lawfare that we saw aimed at crypto by our predecessors. We're ending the weaponization of federal regulations against this community. To put it simply, Operation Choke Point 2.0 is dead, and it's not coming back under the Trump administration. And by the way, it's crazy that was ever even controversial, the idea of using the regulatory power of the government to crush an industry and to crush people who espoused a view that you didn't like. It's crazy, but let my words today serve as Operation Choke Point. Let me serve as its obituary.
I mean, yeah, the fact that the government got so mad at crypto and people making money basically outside of the banking system, yeah, that pissed off a lot of people. I mean, and I'm talking about in, the bankers and in the government who are, well, kind of paid for by the bankers.
Now this,
they are.
Now this is my vow to every single person here. You will never see this administration trying to handicap your community or diminish the impact it's had on the economy. Instead, we reject the Biden administration's legacy of death by 1,000 enforcement actions. We reject regulators. Maybe the most important thing that we did for this community, we reject regulators and we fired Gary Gensler, and we're going to fire everybody like him. And we know that people like Gary Gensler, the game that they played is that under the pretense of consumer protection, they attacked every single effort to democratize our financial markets, and that is over. America I grew up in a working class family. I believe that America is a place where anyone should be able to make a fortune, no matter where you grew up, what degree you may or may not have. And in recent years, I'm hard pressed to think of a better place to do so than right here in the digital assets industry. Now, our second substantive step is we're trying to create a clear, pro-growth legal framework for stablecoins in this country. And I know we've got some solid allies in Congress. Is Cynthia Loomis out there today, or she already go home? She already, well, you know, I was supposed to have dinner last night with Cynthia Loomis. We had a little event yesterday, and I looked around, I said, where the hell is Cynthia Loomis? And somebody said, well, she's got a dinner she had to go to. And I said, I'm the vice president. Unless she's having dinner with the president, Cynthia does not have an excuse to skip this event. But we love Cynthia, and I know that she's one of the great advocates for your industry in the United States Congress. Now, I know, led by Cynthia and other great legislators, Congress is hard at work getting the Genius Act passed and across the president's desk as quickly as possible. And that's an important step. It's with good reason, because regulatory uncertainty in this country has pushed way too much stablecoin activity overseas over the last few years. Now, somebody said to me yesterday that Bitcoin has done so much over the last few years with so many headwinds. Wouldn't it be nice to have a government that provided some tailwinds to one of the fastest growing industries in our country? And that's what we aim to do.
I wonder if that involves crypto mining, because I know they're talking about the crypto reserve, where, you know, holding a whole lot of Bitcoin and other stable coins. But I don't agree with them trying to create their own stable coin. Now, they might just want to, like, hey, government crypto coins, yeah, leave that out. Anything else, though, yeah, well, we're fine with. As long as you guys are killing all the regulations and all that good stuff.
And once the Genius Act is enacted, it's poised to vastly expand the use of stable coins as a digital payment system for millions of our fellow Americans. It'll also protect coin holders and inject further transparency into the market. And let me be emphatic on one other point. In this administration, we do not think that stable coins threaten the integrity of the United States dollar. Quite the opposite.
Well, actually, I mean, it could be a backer. If it all goes to hell, I mean, we could back our dollar. I would rather us back it by gold if everything went to hell. But I mean, backing it with Bitcoin? Who knows how that might go? Who knows? Heard Bricks is kind of working with the crypto coins too. So could work out.
In fact, we view them as a force multiplier of our economic might. Dollar-pegged stablecoins, particularly once Genius is enacted, is only going to help the American economy, and it's only going to help the American dollar. So, again, we're optimistic that the Senate is able to move quickly on passing a clean Genius Act, and for the House to follow up and do the same. And of course, once that happens, our great President Trump will sign it into law the minute it comes across his desk. Now, when that's happened, when the administration will then fully shift to our third priority, which is to enact a transparent and tailored regulatory framework for digital assets, one that's pro-innovation and fully incorporates crypto into the mainstream economy. And again, I've talked to so many of you over the
Hey, and shout out to my man Castro. He says, "Sup, everybody? I'm late as fuck. Actually working tonight." Hey, man, shout out, man, and be safe out there. Also, shout out to the supporters, man. Appreciate y'all. And hey, Cash, right up your alley.
the last couple of days. And the consistent fear that I hear with all the great things that have happened over the last couple of months, the consistent fear that I hear is that there's still this perception that digital assets are not welcome in the mainstream economy. And let me promise you that our effort to change the policy is purely about changing that. We want our fellow Americans to know that crypto and digital assets, and particularly Bitcoin, are part of the mainstream economy and are here to stay. Now, we think the way to do that legislatively, because again, I hope that our party is in charge for a long time, but nothing is ever guaranteed in politics. So the best way to ensure that crypto is part of the mainstream economy is through a market structure bill that champions and doesn't restrict the extraordinary value that Bitcoin and other digital assets represent. Right now, in this Congress and with this administration, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to unleash innovation and use it to improve the lives of countless American citizens. But if we fail to create regulatory clarity now, we risk chasing this $3 trillion industry offshore in search of a friendlier jurisdiction, and President Trump is going to fight to make sure that does not happen.
I mean, yeah, and like I said, I believe that's what BRICS is also trying to use, separate from the American dollar. They are trying to also use crypto coin as well. So letting our foreign adversaries, kind of take over on that would not be good, especially since they can use it to, separate from us, pretty much separate from us. Well, through our world reserve currency.
Think about this. By locking in smart, pro-innovation rules of the road, we can also make sure that Democrats or anybody else never wage another war on the crypto community. Now, I've already hit my time here, but before I head back to Washington, let me offer you just a few bits of advice and a few thoughts on where this industry is going. This is one politician's perspective, so take it for what it's worth. Maybe a little bit less than one Bitcoin right now. But let me say a few things. First of all, I remember when I ran for Senate, the first time I'd ever entered politics back in 2022. And one of the frustrations, honestly, that I had with the crypto community as a person who was one of the only people running for office who actually owned Bitcoin, and I still own a fair amount of Bitcoin today.
It's a capital venture.
Think about this. This is during that campaign. That's 2021 and 2022. This feels like an eternity ago, but it was only 4 years ago, is that I recognize what so many advocates of Bitcoin recognize, which is what the Biden administration was doing. What Gary Gensler was doing was a disaster, and yet there didn't seem to be any real organization pushing back against it at the political level. And let me say that part of the reason that I'm standing here, part of the reason that Bernie Moreno defeated Sherrod Brown in the Senate campaign last year is because you guys got organized and got involved in American politics. And I'm grateful to you for that. But there's a lesson to take from that experience, which is that unless you guys get involved in politics, politics is going to ignore this industry. Now, you took a big step in 2024, and I tell you, every victory that we win, it's only a provisional victory. One of my great mentors in Silicon Valley always told me that, Bitcoin, that the crypto community was about exit and artificial intelligence was about voice. Well, I know that a lot of people in 2024 in this community chose voice. You chose to speak up and you chose to get involved. And I believe you changed the direct trajectory of our country because of it. But you got to keep on choosing voice. Bitcoin, of course, people call it digital gold. But while Bitcoin is digital, none of you are. None of us are. What happens in the world of politics, what happens in the world of bureaucracy, it will affect even the most transformational and valuable technologies if we don't make the right decisions. So the first piece of advice, the first thing that I'd ask you is to take the momentum of your political involvement in 2024 and carry it forward to 2026 and beyond. Don't ignore politics, because I guarantee you, my friends, politics is not going to ignore this community, not now and not in the future.
Especially when you kind of go against the banks as well. Oh, trust me, politics will always be on crypto and AI.
The second thing that I want to toss out there is that we have to start thinking of the long-term strategic implications of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is owned by about 50 million Americans. A lot of Americans have made a lot of money, have created a lot of wealth for themselves, and that's a great thing. But I actually think that where Bitcoin is going is as a strategically important asset for the United States over the next decade. It's one of the reasons why President Trump, with the help of our great AI guy, David Sachs, it's one of the reasons why we started the Bitcoin Reserve, because we want to start to put in motion the strategic importance of Bitcoin for the United States government. We know that the PRC doesn't like Bitcoin. The People's Republic of China doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, we should be asking ourselves, why is that? Why is our biggest adversary such an opponent of Bitcoin? And if the Communist Republic of China is leaning away from Bitcoin, then maybe the United States ought to be leaning into Bitcoin. And that's one of the things that we're going to be doing. But that's not a vice president standing up here and talking at you. The way that Bitcoin is involved in the strategic future of our country, that's got to be a two-way conversation. And so when I talk about getting involved in politics, one of the things that you guys got to do is continue to give us feedback and continue to tell us the ways in which Bitcoin can play a positive role in the strategic future of this country. I know the Bitcoin Policy Institute is working on this very topic now, but all of you have got to be involved in this conversation, because I don't think any of us want to wake up in a country 10 years from now that is less wealthy and less prosperous because we made bad decisions today. We're going to make the right decisions, but that depends on you guys being part of the conversation. So be part of that conversation. And here's the third thought that I want to leave you with. You know, one of the ways you hear this stated is that crypto is fundamentally a conservative or right-leaning technology and artificial.
You know, I'll give crypto this. We all thought it was going to be some type of bubble that was going to pop, and it did. It did pop. But, you know, unlike most bubbles that pop, it gained right back. Actually, it's worth more than ever now. So I damn near consider it an asset at this point, because damn near doing the same thing the stock market will do. Yeah, the stock market will see some bad times, but then it'll also shoot up and see some amazing times. So, I mean, if Bitcoin continues those type of characteristics, so then, yeah, you could definitely consider it a stable coin or a stable asset, to be honest. Now, all right, guys, let's get into this let's get into, well, the federal courts versus Trump round 2. They lost the immigration round, but now they're going to strike it up with the tariffs because, well, they struck Trump's tariffs. Now they're taking down the Liberation Day tariffs because the court said that Trump's pretty much executive powers were an overreach and he doesn't have the right to impose tariffs, even though he does have, well, the right to lead economic commerce. But I guess the trade courts forgot about that part.
Federal court has just blocked the bulk of President Trump's sweeping federal court has just blocked the bulk of President Trump's sweeping global tariffs from going into effect. The ruling comes from the U.S. Court of International Trade in Manhattan. It's a unique and relatively low-key division of the federal judiciary. But tonight it is flexing.
The what was it? The CIT, so the International Trade Court. Now, this International Trade Court is a pretty interesting court, right? It has 9 justices, okay? And out of these 9 justices, I'll tell you the appointing of those justices. We got about 4 Obama judges, so judges that was appointed by Obama on this this committee. And then we got 2 Biden judges, then we got 2 Trump judges, and then we got 1 Reagan judge, with a total of 9 judges. Now, in this decision to strike down Trump's judges, this was a cabinet of 3 out of the 9 judges. Now, these 3 out of the 9 judges came together and decided to put this motion on Trump's tariffs. Well, here's the thing. Well, yeah, they can do that, and it was a unanimous decision. All 3 of them decided. Now, I think it was a Obama judge, a Reagan judge, and a Trump judge on this committee that decided that they want to stop Trump's tariffs and that he doesn't have the power to do it through the, I believe the International Economic Powers Act, the International Economic Power Trade Act.
Its authority in a big way. The 3-judge panel ruled in favor of an injunction against the tariffs, which have roiled worldwide financial
Yes, another injunction again. And here's the thing, by another federal judge. We just had to beat a one federal judge, take it to Supreme Court over immigration, over deportation. Now here we are again, round two, with another federal judge, this time a nice little cabinet of them talking about your tariffs are unconstitutional. You are overreaching your executive power. Even though the president has the right to declare a national state of emergency, even though in that Powers Act it says that he does have a control over economic commerce, and tariffs is a part of economic commerce. But then you want to know what the argument was? Tariffs don't count as part of economic commerce. I know, right? And that's why it was appealed immediately.
markets in recent months. Unclear right now whether the injunction is temporary or permanent, but the decision is potentially massive political, economic, and legal repercussions. Just moments ago.
No, it's permanent until they hit it to appeals, and they're going to appeal to see if they can get a stay on it. So pretty much like a pause. Like, okay, we hear what the court said, but let's get a pause on this and let's bring it to the Supreme Court, and then we'll see it. We'll take it from there. And that's pretty much what the process is going through. So yes, the federal court got in the way of Trump's deportation initiative. They failed on that one. And now they're trying to get in the way of Trump's trade initiative by taking away one of his best negotiating cards, which is tariffs. We'll see how this works out.
White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller wrote online, "The judicial coup is out of control." I'm joined now by former federal prosecutor Ellie Honig and former senior advisor to President Obama, David Axelrod. Ellie, is this a judicial coup? What is this court?
No, this is a fully legitimate federal court. I should note.
Yeah, I mean, but here's the thing: it's 3 justices that came together, and they didn't even come together with their full cabinet. Yes, only 3 justices out of the 9 that are on there came together and made this ruling. So when we say it feels like a judicial coup, it's like, yo, we just got done dealing with the Supreme Court on immigration. Just when that got done, it's not even been a month. And now there's another one targeting Trump's tariffs. Yeah, it does feel like a judicial coup. It's like you guys are doing everything to go against the president's, his agenda. And yes, the president does have power to oppose tariffs, especially under, I believe, what was it called? The I do want to make sure I get it right, guys. You feel me? Because I have to actually write a whole lot of notes on this. But what was it? The International Energy Emergency Act or something like that. I'll double check that one.
Oh, this was a 3-0 opinion. The 3 judges on this court were appointed by President Reagan, President Obama, and President Trump. So I don't know where they're getting this coup language from. This is a huge setback for Trump and his administration. As big a deal as the tariffs were, this is as big a deal in the opposite direction. It essentially pauses for now, rules illegal and unconstitutional almost all of the tariffs that have been in place. And
okay, yes, it was the IEEPA. So it's the International, what was it? Enemies Economic Power Act. Yes, Enemies Economic Power Act. That's the act that Trump was going under, pretty much declaring a national emergency. And now they took down his Liberation Day tariffs, but they wasn't able to strike down his China tariffs because, well, he actually had pretty good backing on that, and that being a threat to American national security. So the aluminum and the steel tariffs stand, but the ones on Liberation Day, they say was an overreach of, his power. Even though it does say under the IEEPA that he can control tariffs because tariffs is a part of economic commerce. And under the IEEPA, the president can control economic commerce.
Core of the ruling is this. Typically, it is Congress that controls the tariff power. However, Congress can pass laws giving that power to the president in certain instances. They did that years ago in a statute called the IEEPA, the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Trump then declared, okay, we are in an international economic emergency because of our trade deficits, because of other economic worldwide factors. And this court unanimously 3-0 said, that is not an economic emergency. That is not what the law means. Having trade deficits, which we've had for 49 years continuously, that is not an economic emergency and has now struck down for the...
But that would be a straw man of the argument, to be quite honest with you. And the reason why I would call it a straw man, because it's like, okay, but here's the thing. He also, he did the China and the aluminum and steel under the IEEPA. Now, the Liberation Day ones were under the Section 301, where he can actually impose these tariffs if there's proof of unfair trade tactics. So they kind of straw man Trump on the Liberation Day tariffs, and it looks like they just went strictly under the IEEPA, or they just disregarded Section 31 altogether, which does give the president the power to go ahead and impose tariffs on unfair trade operators, countries.
Time being, all of those tariffs that were put in place on Trump's first day and then on quote unquote Liberation Day, April 2nd.
David, I mean, how much of a black eye is this for the administration?
Well, Trump loves tariffs. We know that. He thinks it's a cure-all for all of America's problems that will, raise revenue.
Well, actually, it is a straw man. They kind of simplified the argument, or they attacked this argument where it was weak, and they applied the standard of the IEEPA to his entire reason why he did the tariffs. And then when they wanted to bring up Section 301, they said, oh, the timeline doesn't match up. And remember, these are just 3 judges out of a 9-judge court. So like I said, we didn't really get the full judicial review anyway. That's what's so crazy about it as well. So like I said, they struck down almost everything under the IEEPA, pretty much saying that it is not a national emergency, which, I mean, if you want to go ahead and put the Liberation Day tariffs and you want to put it on that guideline, I can honestly agree with that. But under Section 301 is most definitely valid.
Revenues, it'll bring jobs flowing back here, manufacturing jobs. It will restore American respect and balance in the way, all of this. But in a weird way, I mean, in the short run, I think it creates a lot of havoc because everyone's trying to figure out when this, in the long run, it could save him from himself because these tariffs are bad economic policy, and these tariffs could raise costs on Americans. They're already starting to, so if the result of it is he's stymied in doing something that's going to raise costs for people, it may be a black eye, but it may also be a break for him.
Just legally, what's the recourse for the White House here?
So like any other federal case, this will be appealed. I think the first thing the White House is going to do is ask the Court of Appeals, which in this case is called the Federal Circuit. Usually the circuits are.
And here's the thing, though. I don't know why, once again, but here's actually, you know what? They did it smart this time. It just wasn't some random federal court or district court judge. And it was actually went through a federal court. But the thing is, they just went straight on to a national injunction, and they didn't even really, put it through any other court. But here's the problem, though. They don't got to. The CIT, they kind of got overleaning rule on what goes on in trade or how these trade policies are utilized. And this is why it's going to make it to the Supreme Court. One, because out of 3 of the 9 justices are on there, and an automatic appeal. And, there's many arguments to be made here, seeing that the Supreme Court has levied, trade policies to a president before.
1st through 11th, this is separate. They're going to ask the Federal Circuit, first of all, to block this ruling, essentially to unblock the tariffs. Then the White House is going to appeal to the Federal Circuit, which again functions as that mid-level Court of Appeals. And then whoever loses there, I think, is very likely to appeal up to the U.S. Supreme Court. This could wind up in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. I think if we look at the recent U.S. Supreme Court opinions, they've been skeptical of these sort of dramatic invocations.
Honestly, it is kind of crazy how they are coming after Trump's economic, pretty much his economic trading, one of his best assets. Tariffs is one of the main reasons why we have these countries lining up to make a trade deal. And it's the main reason why we're getting these big corporations to come back and reshore into America. That's the main reason why, because they don't want to miss out on our market. Now, like I said, a lot of people want to say that, it's a price on the people. It can only be passed on to the people, even though there's been various companies that are going to eat the tariffs. And if companies can eat tariffs, does that automatically kill the logic of, it's only a tax on the people? It's only going to raise prices? I mean, they lied to you about being inflationary. So what else do you think they lied to you about?
Vacations by the administration. As one example, the Supreme Court has found that the Alien Enemies Act, this does not involve an invasion or an incursion. So I think there's some skepticism there towards this sort of tendency the administration has of calling everything an emergency, everything an attack, everything an incursion, rebellion, et cetera.
Yeah, I mean, I think that.
But But still, though, the Supreme Court still ruled in Trump's favor under the Aliens Enemies Act. Still. So here's the thing. I do believe that, well, Trump's team is going to most likely get this pushed to the Supreme Court and most likely get it ruled in his favor because they honestly have a lot of good arguments. And I'm not saying that the CIT court didn't have a really good argument saying that, all right, hold on now, this isn't a national emergency. This is more for like, unfair trade policy. Unfair trade policy is not part of a national emergency. And that's a valid point. I will give it to the courts on that one. But they did neglect the Section 301 trade. Well, Section 301 under the Trade Act argument. They neglected to put that one in there. And that's what the Trump administration is going to ride on. And on the fact that, well, the courts have let presidents kind of run away with economic policy before without making no national injunction. So that's also going to be a point brought up as well.
What we know is that Trump is not a great respecter of rules and laws and norms and institutions, doesn't want to be constrained, wants to expand the power of the executive, and declaring these emergencies has given him the legal pretext to do it. And now this is being challenged on a lot of different fronts. So there are long-term implications for it.
It also, I mean, it certainly throws a monkey wrench into any negotiations that are going on between the U.S. and other countries. I mean, do those continue during a period like this?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a very big question. I mean, I don't know how you negotiate if you don't know. Maybe I just don't know. And
Remember, guys, this is Liberation Day tariffs only. So it's tariffs on China, which stand because, I mean, the courts recognize the fentanyl problem. So they let the 20% tariff stay. But let's say the 10% will be on pause now. So if these were to, stay current, then that means like China would go from having a 30% base tariff to a 20% base tariff because the fentanyl tax would still apply because the IEEPA would apply to that because it is a concern of national security and China is admittedly a threat to our economy and national security. So taking any, tariffs off China would actually, that would kind of seem a bit erroneous. But applying it to Liberation Day, I mean, it is a valid argument. I will give them that. But leaving out, certain sections and, leaving out certain laws, I mean, I can see where they made the argument. I can see where they made a winning point.
That's one of the reasons why this is going to throw the whole trade picture into kind of havoc in the next few
So, Ellie, do tariffs remain in place right now?
Most of them, no. Most of them are now suspended. So the opinion specifies 3 categories of tariffs that are now declared illegal. The trafficking tariffs, which were declared on the first day, January 20th, directed primarily at Canada and Mexico and at China. Those numbers have shifted, but Canada, Mexico, China, those are now on hold. Those are now struck down. Also,
are you serious?
The so-called worldwide and
you took off the trafficking one, bro. Whose side are y'all on? Now that's actually a national emergency. You're telling me trafficking into the country is not a national emergency? Now, come on now. That's a bit wild. Now, you could have said the Liberation Day ones. I'd have let y'all have that argument. But I'm pretty sure they're going to win on the trafficking argument. If they're taking on the trafficking tariffs, they're going to have to make a pretty compelling argument about how human and drug trafficking is not a national emergency that Americans should be concerned about or is something that we should punish coming from other countries.
And retaliatory tariffs, those were the ones announced on April 2nd on so-called Liberation Day. The 10% on everyone that Trump announced that day, the 11 to 50% that was imposed on other countries, and the retaliatory tariffs on China. So all of those categories, they're all on hold.
The tariffs that have already been collected.
Right. Oh, that's a great question. Do they go back? I don't know the answer to that. I think
actually no, they do want them to go back. And that's also the wild thing, because I'm just like, damn, was this something done by like the big corporations or something? Because one, it happened out of nowhere. And then also two, they also want that the Treasury to give back the money to the, big corporations that paid these tariffs and that took it to their profit margin and didn't raise their prices. Like I said, guys, it is a bit funny how things are working out. Like they want them to give back the money that was supposed to help American taxpayers save money. Okay, guys.
If this,
they're for the people though, right?
No, it's good. I would imagine that if this ultimately gets struck down, if it goes all the way up to the Supreme Court, then there could be an action brought by those other countries to recover. I mean, it would be money wrongly paid, according to this ruling that just came down.
Ellie Honig, David Axelrod, thanks very much.
Markets are.
That is wild. Yep. So basically, we got the courts pretty much wanting to, well, takes tax revenue away from the American people. And these are the same, like I said, these are the same Dems that wants to raise taxes so they can, avoid less government spending, even though they raise taxes and still do way more government spending. I mean, it's absolutely wild how these people operate economically. But honestly, Trump has a really good argument on the tariffs. And this does seem like another kicking and screaming moment, a tantrum by the courts again, because, well, that's really the only power. That's where the Dems honestly have the most power, is in the courts right now. And they're kicking and screaming in the courts, trying to hold on to whatever power they got. So it doesn't make sense that they'd go after Trump's tariffs, since it's one of his main cards and I guess one of his main tools in his arsenal or weapons. It doesn't make sense. But I do see this going to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court will most likely rule in Trump's favor again, because I'm going to be real with you, they had a stronger argument with the immigration. This one is going to fall flat on his face again. So, hey, Dems, have fun with this one. But when it comes out ruling to Trump, don't cry.
Jumping in after hours trading on that news that a court has halted Trump's, quote, Liberation Day tariffs temporarily. Dow futures rising immediately on the news by more than 1.1%, 500 points, about 1.5% for the S&P 500, even more than that for the NASDAQ. The bulk of Trump's tariffs now paused by a court. Now, this is a 3-judge panel, as I said, a temporary pause, ruling Trump does not have the authority to impose the tariffs. Paula Reed is out front.
Which is being appealed, which was appealed within 2 hours of the ruling. Like I said, a 3-judge court out of nowhere just came down without even all 9 of its judges, just came down and just said, yep, we're just going to go ahead and pause these tariffs on the whole what was it? I think it was the Information Economic, Economic Emergency Power Act or something like that. Yeah. Nah, that's not actually a pretty good argument. I'll be real with you, especially when they leave out Section 301. That's the main argument that Trump's going to ride on, and the fact that, well, the courts do seem to be nitpicking with this one. They could also bring up multiple times where the president has ran pretty much economic policy, and they sat to the side and said nothing. And then they're also going to have to defend, well, how come the human trafficking or the trafficking tariff wasn't valid? How is that not an emergency? They're going to have to explain that one. The Liberation Day, that's a decent argument, but the trafficking tax, yeah, I don't know about that one. That's going to be a very weak argument.
All right, now, Paula, when we look at all of what's been going on with these tariffs, this is an outcome that many had not anticipated. A court getting in and saying Trump can't even do this to begin with. So, what can you tell us about this ruling?
But we've seen across the country, Aaron, various.
And all right, man. Shout out to my man Fox. He said it wills all these libs in the blue. All right, my bad. He said it will. All these libs in the blue major cities are crying about tariffs is a tax, and the very leaders they elect tax the shit out of them. I know, right? I mean, they're talking about taxes. I'm just like, bro, you guys live in liberal cities. You guys get taxed out the ass, and you love it. Actually, the same party that you guys honestly complain about, honestly want to cut your taxes. The party that you complain about want to cut your taxes, but the party you're championing want to raise your taxes. Ain't that crazy?
Court blocking Trump's policies, but this is one of the first times we have seen a court blocking his ability to impose these global tariffs. Now, this particular lawsuit, this was brought by a legal advocacy group that represents small businesses and claimed that they had been severely harmed by these tariffs. And here, this is a very low profile court. As you noted, the U.S. Court of International Trade, they ruled in favor of a permanent injunction. So this is a permit. It's temporary, but it lasts until this case moves on. Injunction. So this is effectively grounds Trump's tariffs to a halt. So this is incredibly significant because we know that he uses these tariffs as a key part of his international trade so-called deals and policies. So to have this court block this with a preliminary injunction, this is surprising. And as you noted, this is going to have an impact not only on his policies, but on global markets. Now, we have also seen the administration rail against the fact that any courts can block policies put forth by the administration. So we are waiting for comment from the Justice Department, from the White House in response to this enormous decision.
All right, Paula, thank you very much. Let's go straight to Ryan Goodman, just joining us on the phone.
Well, hey, they took it from 1 district judge to 3 judges. Well, at least they upped their numbers.
As this news broke. So, Ryan, you heard Paula say, like, it's a court, the Court of International Trade, that many would not have heard of prior to tonight, coming out and in unexpected fashion and ending the tariffs for now. How significant is this ruling?
It's very significant. The court at the end of the ruling says we're not just ruling for this plaintiff, but we're basically ruling for everybody that would be covered by the tariffs. There are other cases that have been brought to the same court. So it's in a sense ruling for all of those cases as well by saying that the tariffs are not legal.
Like I said, but they're forgetting Section 301 of the Trade Act of 1974. Kind of funny. It's kind of close to the same trade act he was using in 1977, but it's a pretty powerful tool because, one, this tool lets the president take action, including imposing tariffs against countries engaging in unfair trade practices. So if the Trump lawyers can make the argument that, well, these countries are engaging in unfair trade practices because of what they were doing with China, or their import bans, or their currency manipulation, or their tariffs in general, then everything is valid under Section 301 of the Trade Act. That's just the fact of the matter right there. And that's what I'm saying. They did not consider that when they made this strike against Trump, these, 3 judges.
In some ways, the court's argument basically says this goes back to Congress. It boils down to the idea that there was always a poor fit for the tariffs being invoked by the administration because the administration says they were operating under this emergency National Security Act, and the court says, no, you aren't. That the National Security Act was not built for something like this. It's
No. See, that's what I'm saying. That's why I said they like strawmanned them, because that wasn't the only argument that they proposed. They said, no, we're going under not only the IEEPA, we're not just running with that alone, okay? We're also running with the Section 301 of the Trade Act. They said both of those arguments, and they said, no, we're striking it down because you said it's a matter of national emergency, and you said that was the reason for all your tariffs. That's the argument they used. They didn't even include their argument for the Section 301. They said the timeline doesn't match up. And I'm just like, well, what does that even got to do with the, hold on. Like, trust me, if you when you kind of read through how they went, how this was all set up, it was like, all right, yeah, this was definitely to go against Trump. But it's more valid than just a district judge coming out of nowhere. These guys actually do have the authority to do this. So I will give them that.
It's really Congress's authority to give it to you, and you don't have it yet. So it really means that the White House has to go to Congress, unless, of course, they can get this ruling overturned.
Okay, so can you walk through, though, the timing of all of this? I mean, we're in a situation where, I mean, this is a seismic shift. So what happens now, I guess, in terms of how long it would take to have this actually work its way through the court, or where do things go from the Court of International Trade? I mean, what's the timeline and process here?
Given the dramatic global implications, the administration in all likelihood will first ask the court itself just to put a pause on its own ruling. Yes, the ruling is one that is a permanent ruling. It's like its final decision, but they can ask the court, can you just pause it while we appeal? This is one of these rare situations in which the court itself, even though it ruled against the administration, might say, okay, we'll pause our ruling so you can appeal it. If they don't do that.
And then here's the thing, who are we appealing to? Are we appealing to the same 3 judges? Or are we appealing to the entire, court? Like all 9 justices that are on that court, even though it does outweigh heavily in Trump's favor. Because like I said, we got like 4 Biden appointed judges on there. Well, no, not 4 Biden appointed, but 4 Obama appointed judges on the CIT, the International Trade Court. And then we also got 2 Trump ones, 2 Biden ones, and then we got 1 Reagan. That doesn't seem like it's going to work in Trump's favor. So it is best that they take it to the appeal court instead of trying to have it retrialed, which I guess there were some people who were saying, oh, no, you should just get it ran through the entire court. And I'm just like, whoa. Trust me, that court does not lean in his favor. I'm pretty sure those three represented the feelings of that entire court. As much as I do not like to hear that or admit that, I'm pretty sure those three represented that in the entire feelings of that court, all 9 of them.
Then the administration will appeal it one step up to the First Circuit, and then the question becomes whether or not that Court of Appeals will stop this ruling from going into effect while they decide whether or not they want to overturn it. So we might get a pause quite quickly, which will obviously jolt everything back into place as it was before this ruling. But it's
yeah, just like they did with the what was it, on halting Trump's deportations, they put a pause on it. So here's the thing, most likely they'll grant Trump that pause and the tariffs will be going back in there, and then they're going to have to go ahead and like I said, work it up to the Supreme Court. And I do believe they work it up to the Supreme Court, there's a lot of arguments they can make to pretty much have Trump's, stand. And like I said, we still pretty much do have the Supreme Court at least out of like 7 out of 2 of them, or maybe every now and then we'll have a 6-3. So getting this push to the Supreme Court would be the best strategy for the Trump administration, to where they can actually have their full arguments heard out instead of only half of it. And then when they have a good argument, they tell you it doesn't match up with the timeline. Like, man, ain't that dismissive as hell?
Anybody's guess as to how that's going to go.
All right. Well, a very, very significant moment. Thank you so much, Ryan Goodman, as we try to digest the importance of that in this moment, as stocks are jumping right now.
Yeah, I bet they are. I mean, look, man, it is funny. Like I tell you, it's like the libs are damn near working for the corporate elites now. Like, look, guys, if you help us go against Trump, we'll help you go ahead and get your payments on tariffs back. It's like, bruh, what is going on when the libs are actually championing the corporate elites? They're actually happy. And here's the thing, you know what? I'm not even really mad at it. It's just that where was this attitude when we was telling y'all about, maybe we should, cut taxes on the rich so they can, reinvest. And then y'all guys kicked and screamed about that. But then here's the thing, couldn't overtaxing them also resulted in higher prices? I mean, I'm just saying, you guys complain about tariffs, like, wouldn't raising their, wouldn't trying to cut in their profit margins as well through high taxes also kind of do the same thing. So we threw it through high taxes, you're okay with it. We threw it through tariffs because it's Trump, you're upset. I don't know, man. It's like there's no way to really make you guys happy.
Director Kash Patel, thanks so much for the time.
All right, let's get into Brett Barr and Kash Patel, though. I mean, crazy eyes, man. The man has the crazy eyes.
We're joined by FBI Director Kash Patel. Thanks so much for the time.
Welcome to Quantico, Brett.
This hasn't been on TV, this kind of behind the scenes. This is where an FBI agent or analyst starts their journey, right?
Absolutely. The first grade facilities that we are trying to dedicate to the men and women who want to join the FBI need some upgrading, as well as the standards that we need them to meet the violent crime.
It's so funny. People want to argue against trickle-down economics when trickle-down economics is the whole reason you have a job. Like, yes, if you work for a corporation or even for yourself, because you probably do contract work for a big company or a rich person, yes, trickle-down economics does work, because most companies actually have to keep money in circulation in this nice little oval shape up and down. They send the money down, jobs, factory, offices, all that good stuff. You get the jobs, you guys buy their services and their products, and it goes all the way back up. So it kind of goes in this nice little oval motion. And shout out, because the only people that actually make money, making money stand still, well, is banks, because they earn interest off the money they have.
Crime, and all of that is engineered right here in Quantico, Virginia, and we're thrilled that you're coming here for behind the scenes.
Yeah. So applications to be an FBI agent, back in March, it was about 5,600.
Actually, no, the middle class has been shrinking through the 80s because we don't have tariffs. It's because we did too much free trade and we let China make everything when we could have made everything ourselves. And that took all the jobs and gutted the middle class. Yeah, yes. That honestly has really nothing to do with trickle-down economics, because trickle-down economics kind of worked, just not for us. It worked out for the Chinese people so they can, kind of have their slave wage, or these big corporations can have slave wages and the Chinese corporations can have some type of corporate revenue. I mean, that's the reason why, my friend. Like I said, you guys kind of missed the whole reason. I don't know what's your problem with trickle-down economics when you guys have a job off it. You can't argue the fact that money from the top does come down to fuel all these things that you guys pretty much invest in and find employment in, and then you just shoot it right back up to the same guys you bitch about. Like, what? What you mean? You participate in trickle-down economics every day.
The last time the Bureau saw monthly figures like this was back in April 2016. But you're seeing big numbers.
We're seeing huge numbers, and I think that's in large part to the administration's response on which way the FBI wants to go.
You know, here's the thing, though. I'm not even speaking up for the corporations. I'm just finding it funny how you guys can make this argument about trickle-down economics don't work. We actually go against these corporations who gutted the middle class for cheaper work, you know, being profit-driven. We hit their profits to try to bring them back here to benefit us. The same corporate elites that you guys are bitching about, we're actually hitting in the gut, and you guys are complaining. Actually, you guys are mad about how we're doing it. I mean, bro, it's hard to take you guys seriously at a certain point.
Last year alone, the average for per month application was about 2,500 applicants per month. The first 2 full months of applicants we've had since I've been in the seat were at 5,700
no real
applicants
arguments,
a month.
guys.
So that shows me there's an excitement for the American citizen to join the Bureau.
All right, so let's talk about some of the things that you're doing. You're doing a lot of things all at once. One of the operations is on fentanyl, Operation Raptor. It's really across 4 continents, but you not only the fentanyl, but also the precursors to fentanyl from China.
Brett, almost no one's talking about it. Fentanyl is a synthesized manufactured drug. You don't clip it from a tree. And if you want to choke off the amount of fentanyl that's pouring into America, that's killing an American citizen almost every 7 minutes, you got to go to the source. So one of the first things I did when I became the director of the FBI, I said, we're going to mainland China. We're hitting up the fentanyl precursor laboratories and the banks that are moving the money and the transshipment routes. We started that over almost 90 days ago. We're going to suffocate the snake. We're going to cut off its head. We're going to.
I'm sorry, but where's y'all argument? Do you understand? Look, you guys are embarrassing yourselves by not having an argument and just having insults. Actually, I'll be nice today. You want to come up and debate that? Great. We can debate trickle-down economics, and you're going to sit up here and tell me how you work your job in a corporation and how it gives you money so you can perform your life and how you're an operator in this trickle-down economics that works for damn near every American. Not saying it's perfect, but we all benefit from it. Please come up here and prove me right. And like I said, try to come with no insults and come up here and actually make a real argument like a grown-up. I will extend that argument. You know what? Why not? Does trickle-down economics work? We can open up the call-in line on that.
Use our interagency partners at Treasury for sanctions, at State Department for diplomatic negotiations. But the simple fact is the Chinese and the CCP have gotten smart. They said, okay, we're going to stop sending fentanyl precursors directly to Mexico because you've done such a good job at suffocating the southern border. We're going to send them elsewhere through other agencies, through other countries. And we are attacking those points to choke off the fentanyl precursor distribution. No one has done that before. To date, this year, we have seized 1,000 kilograms of fentanyl in the United States of America. That's 480 million lethal doses. That's enough to kill everyone in America and Canada combined. And that's just in these 3 months.
You know, you coming in before you got this job were obviously a critic of the FBI, how it was being operated. Now, after being on the job, for as long as you've been on the job, what about the FBI did you get wrong before becoming director? Like, did you have some preconceived notion that turned out to be wrong about the Bureau?
I think what I was a critic of was the leadership, people who sat in this seat before me and people who were the deputies and the very senior portions of the Bureau who manipulated and weaponized the Bureau. I was a fierce critic of it because I led the Russiagate investigation and I proved that my predecessors went to a federal court and lied to them just to weaponize the FBI and the DOJ. That is 100% true. I think one of the things that surprised me the most, and pleasantly so, was that the amount of men and women at the FBI that hated that they did that to the Bureau. And that when I got in the seat, when Dan Bongino got in the seat, they said, we want to fix this place. We want to work with you. We've been trying to do it for years. We've been trying to increase training. We weren't able to. We've been trying to take the technological advancements around the world and import them into the.
No, dog. She said, the real argument, they need your labor. Taxes stimulate the economy. Investments stimulate the economy, actually. So let me teach you something, my friend, because one, that's not a real argument when you said they need your labor, because the only reason you do the labor for them is because they promise to compensate you. You wouldn't do it just for the hell of it. You only do it on the premise of compensation that comes from the fact that they've reinvested their money into building an establishment, a building, factory, etc., that you come to work in for the compensation that they provide. You need their money, and yes, they need your labor, and they provide you compensation through the reinvestment of the money that you probably gave to them in some way, shape, or form, or millions of others then gave to them in some way, shape, or form. And they use that money to reinvest, to give you a salary, an hourly wage, or whatever way payment form you get, my friend. It's coming from the rich. It's coming from reinvestments from the rich. And you can't argue that. So you can't sit there and say they need your labor when they provide something that you want to give up for your labor. It's not like you do it for free.
The FBI, that hasn't been done. And so we've just seen a void in terms of long range planning at the FBI that all the men and women at the FBI wanted to do, and their leadership wouldn't let them.
You know, you were on with Maria a few weeks ago, and you said this.
What we can do now is continue to put out the documents and the information that these people withheld from the American public. You're about to see a wave of transparency.
What do you mean?
Just give us about a week or two.
All right, we're almost at 2 weeks. So this is about Crossfire Hurricane. You just talked about that, all that you've been learning. Can you give us a little of that wave of transparency?
Absolutely. So just quickly on Crossfire Hurricane, that is a continuing production.
And shout out to Hellbat. He says, he's like, set off the socialists and commies with that. Yeah, I mean, I know they hate the fact that trickle-down economics is one, you may hate it because it hasn't worked for you in the way you wish it did, but you do benefit from it. Even by having the job that you love or you hate, it was given through some type of corporation, big firm, you know, like I said, the multimillionaires and billionaires that you hate so much, but they're the whole reason why you're able to, you know, afford things for yourself, family, friends, all that good stuff. It's all thanks to them. Like, love them or hate them. It's just the duality of life, guys.
We have found material, and I'm the Crossfire Hurricane guy, that I didn't even know existed in FBI holdings.
So there's been held someplace else, or?
That's been stashed away in locations that people thought we wouldn't find it because we wouldn't know to look for it there. And as promised with my congressional partners, I'm working with Congress on constitutional oversight because that's what the American people deserve. And those documentations have been flowing to Congress nonstop on a rolling basis since that interview. But more importantly, people have had questions about January 6th and whether or not there were FBI sources, not agents, sources on the ground during January 6th. And I told you I would get you the definitive answer to that. And we have. And we are in the process, again, of working with our partners to divulge that information. And it is coming. And I will tell you this. The answer to that question will surprise and shock people because of what past FBI leaders have said about it.
Former FBI Director Chris Wray eventually admitted to Congress there were 26 FBI confidential human sources in around the Capitol January 6th, but not actual agents. Can you say that's true? Are there more than that? What you're learning from that?
I can say that that is definitely a piece of the truth. Why it took a ton of time for and questioning in Congress for the director to get that point is what I'm trying to eliminate from the FBI. If Congress asks you a question under oath, whether or not there were sources in around January 6th at the Capitol, you as
my friend, that is not a fail in trickle-down economics. That is, well, like I said, it's like, bro, what are you guys really arguing? It's like, trickle-down economics works. Why do Americans need multiple jobs? I mean, due to trickle-down economics, American is able to get multiple jobs. And then here's the thing. Most Americans, when they have multiple jobs, are usually grinding for something or something like that. But that's besides the point. That's besides the point, my man. let me get into your real point on why do America need multiple jobs. That's not really a failure of trickle-down economics, because your argument is that on trickle-down economics that the rich holds all their wealth at the top and they don't put it down to the bottom, but they do. Now, some of these ultra wealthy do it through the Americans, like I said, through giving jobs, investment opportunities, and all that. Or some of them do trickle-down economics in other countries, like you know how Apple and China works out. Do you understand what I'm saying with that? And think about it. Apple kind of trickle-down economic works over there in China because Apple invests heavily over there, so these guys can build factories, have jobs, and you know, on a very, very low wage, somehow feed themselves and their families. That's the essence of trickle-down economics. So, how much jobs you're working during trickle-down economics is really a condition of the economy and not a condition on trickle-down economics, you know, working or the theory of it.
As a director of the FBI, need to know that and not deflect and give it.
But you can hop in the post tab, and like I said, we can all go ahead and I'll have this conversation. Hop in the post tab. I got the call-in link open. Let's have some fun tonight, guys. Why not?
DC answer. You have to be prepared for that. And that's the answer we're giving. That's the answer Chris Wray should have given.
And eventually everybody's going to know the whole picture.
Yeah, because the American people deserve that. And look, no one's more frustrated than me. Remember, I was chief of staff of the Department of Defense on January 6th. We said that we were ready, and the president had previously authorized the National Guard to be there days in advance. I spent 2 years, a small fortune, grand juries, to testify to the truth. And what happens now, years later? We were right. Bowser and Pelosi rejected that offer. And instead of figuring out how to prevent security lapses like that ever again, the American public spent tens of millions of dollars and countless hours on TV listening to conspiracy theories because those in positions of leadership failed to tell the American public the truth.
But there is a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
There are.
The Epstein thing, you dealt with Maria, you said, as far as you know, he killed himself.
I'm telling you, he killed himself.
The other thing on the internet is the Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that. And it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them on everything.
Yeah. And if somebody says, how long is that going to take? You know, we always see investigations in Washington that end up in blue ribbon commissions, and it doesn't seem like anything comes from it. Do you think actual prosecutions will come from some of this stuff?
I think from some of this stuff, when we go back and look at things like the pipe bomber case, the cocaine in the White House, January 6th, and Crossfire Hurricane, the prosecutorial decisions will lay at the Department of Justice, but we are rigorously investigating them, and I think we've developed some great leads. And I also think we're not going to wait for any blue ribbon commissions. That's up to Congress. If they want to do that, that's totally fine. They're a coordinate branch of government. But we've got answers coming on all these matters.
You promise?
I do.
Your deputy, before he became deputy, said this.
Like many people, I believe the FBI knows the identity of this pipe bomber on January 6th, 4 years ago, and just doesn't want to tell us because it was an inside job.
Why didn't they find the bomber, the pipe bomber? You know, they know who the pipe bomber is. The FBI knows who it is.
Does the FBI know who it is?
The FBI, under me and Dan Bongino's leadership, has reestablished that investigations of great public importance that almost blew up the DNC and RNC in Washington, D.C., an area in which then Vice President Harris was in the vicinity of, is something that needs to be answered. And we learned that FBI leadership in the prior administration slow-rolled and basically shut that investigation off. So we turned it on. And we have some great leads, and Dan is actually going to talk about that when he does Fox and Friends tomorrow.
Okay. You don't want to give...
I don't know, man. Cash Patel still pissed us off with the Epstein killed himself. Yeah, we saw the file. I'm like, bro, if y'all gonna hit us with that, can you at least release the file? Like, do us a favor, man. Don't treat us like we're freaking kids, okay? Just give us the file, proving that he offed himself, and we'll be okay. We will be okay. Like, we'll be able to take that, but you just can't say that and be like, oh, yeah, hit us with the trust me, bro. Nah, we're not going with that. But if you release the information, we'll go ahead and take it.
Give us a little something.
I can't
Like,
get ahead
I
of
mean, I can believe it, but just show me the proof.
everybody.
All right. What did you make of your predecessors' walk on the beach with the shells 8647?
You know, the FBI is bigger than any leader it's ever had or ever will have. And James Comey's a private citizen, and he can walk around the beach and talk about seashells and Crayola crayons for all I care about, and talk about how we're the conspiracy theorists. But I just remind the American people of one thing. When that man was a leader of the FBI, he perpetrated the largest criminal conspiracy, packaged political information from overseas, took it to a federal Pfizer court, and illegally surveilled a political opponent. So I won't be lectured on how to run this FBI from that man.
Well, James Comey was just on talking about all of that, the seashells and everything. And he also talked about.
I'm like, here's the funny thing. You don't want to know how it lives. Like, oh, it's not coming out because Trump is on it. I'm like, here's the thing. If we're going off the, I don't know, the, I guess, locking, like, you know, the lock and chain around this whole Epstein situation, I would say there was way more being hidden from us under the Biden administration than Trump. At least these guys made the effort to release it. Well, under Biden, it was just like hush, hush. Oh, he killed himself. Okay, it is what it is, guys. Let's keep it moving. I mean, and that was it. And they just left us to our conspiracies or wild speculations.
What about you?
Obviously, you start with the fact that the guy has literally nothing in his entire adult life that prepares him for this role. And so that's deeply concerning to start with. In a way, I kind of a little bit sorry for the guy. He's barked at the FBI nonsense for years. And now he not only caught.
Hold on. Somebody made a Sam Cedar argument. It was about that Kansas brown bag experiment. Yes, the Kansas brown bag experiment. I was actually debunked that because the problem with the Kansas brown bag experiment, and that was if you cut taxes on the rich, it should pretty much help out the economy. Yeah, the problem with that is that one, that experiment actually worked in multiple states, but the problem with Kansas is a mainly agricultural state. So the Kansas brown bag experiment failed because of the, well, honestly, the fact that the entire Kansas economy hinges on agriculture and they didn't have anything else to lean on. So when they cut taxes, it's like the government ran out of money because the government was running out of money, or well, the state of Kansas was running out of money because they're like, well, the only place we could collect taxes from is agriculture. And you cut that one, we don't got too many other places. And that's pretty much what happened. It had nothing to do with this whole, trickle-down economics doesn't really work. No, it has everything to do with, well, that's just not the right economy to be just slashing taxes in. It's, an economy that's just built on or that hinges on one industry, which was agriculture.
Bought the car, he's got to drive the car. And so that is a daunting task for him. I hope he lets the career people do their jobs, but they've already forced out a bunch of good career people and sent a chill through the organization.
That's James Comey.
If he wants to come after me, no problem. I've been living rent-free in that guy's head for years, and that's just a bonus. Do you know how many copycats we've had to investigate as a result of that beachside venture from the former director?
Is that right?
Do you know how many agents I've had to take offline from chasing down child sex predators, fentanyl traffickers, terrorists? Because everywhere across this country, people are popping up on social media and think that a threat to the life of the president of the United States is a joke and they can do it because he did it. That's what I'm having to deal with every single day. And that's what I'm having to pull my agents and analysts off because he thought it was funny to go out there and make a political statement.
The 8647, the president said that he believed it was an assassination message. On assassination attempts, I did ask the president on the Middle East trip about this. Is there frustration on your part? Will we get transparency? Will we know the bottom line story?
It's very interesting because we have great people. I think Pam is incredible. I think Cash is incredible. I'm relying on my people to tell me what it is. We have deep-seated craziness in this country, and I'm relying on my people. And so far, they're good. But so far, and in this case, the Secret Service, they tell me it's fine. But it's a little hard to believe, to be honest with you, okay? It's a little bit hard to believe as I get that throbbing feeling.
It sounds like he wants more about at least the Butler guy that we don't know a lot about. Will we know a lot more about him? Is there more to know?
I don't know that there's more to know, but you're going to know everything we know. And that's the other thing we did. We take assassination attempts, and especially of the President of the United States, extremely seriously. And we don't feel that the American people have been given the information they need on that. And we're digging through the files and we're getting them a more robust picture of what happened and whether or not there were any connections.
I get all that. And I also understand investigations underway and there's potential prosecutions for people who are living, but he's dead. And we knew a lot more about a lot of different people than we know about that guy. And you know, there's people that circulate all kinds of stuff, that it was an inside job or there was foreign influence or whatever. Can we say that it's not that?
And that's a great example of people looking for things where things don't exist. In that specific case, since that individual is dead, we are able to say a lot more, unlike the Merchant case in New York, which is ongoing. And whether or not there are any connections, we have definitively given that information over.
Director Patel, stand by if you would.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey,
Wild. I mean, around the bush, this man is. But all right, man, let's get over to this whole shadow government accusation.
We have more on that straight ahead. But first tonight, the walls are closing on the Democrats and the state-run legacy media mob as more and more evidence shows up that they helped cover up Joe Biden's cognitive decline. And guess what?
And shout out to my man Jordan in the scene. He says BlackRock. Woo, man. BlackRock will never let it out. Inside job 912. Well, all right then. My man calling something. Shout out to my man Jordan in the scenery.
What? Who knew what? What did they know? When did they know it? And who was really in charge the last 4 years? Every one of you deserves answers to all of those questions and more. Now, thankfully, House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer, he is working to get those answers. Last week, Chairman Comer sent letters to Biden's former White House physician, Kevin O'Connor, as well as 4 top senior aides demanding that they appear for transcribed interviews. Now, Comer alleges that all of these staffers work behind the scenes to run interference, to hide just how bad Joe Biden's decline was from the American public. Now, last week, he told Fox News that unelected bureaucrats had an overwhelming influence on Biden and were possibly even serving as the de facto president. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. A pro-energy group.
And the reason why this is such a big scandal, because like I said, now that we know that Biden's health has pretty much been in decline along with dementia, who's running? Who's running the office? Like, who's actually running, like, the country? Because obviously, at least for the past 2 years, it wasn't Biden. Maybe he had some say in the first 2, but the past 2 years, it definitely wasn't him. So who was it?
Or the future. They're now demanding answers on the alleged use of the auto pen, saying that there's no evidence that Biden knew about several climate executive orders he allegedly signed. In particular, the group says executive orders banning Arctic drilling, committing the federal government to net zero emissions by 2050, mandating clean energy AI centers, and banning offshore drilling should be deemed null and void due to the use of auto pen, and no public comment from Biden confirming any knowledge of it at the time or since. Now, we need congressional hearings. We need more information.
There's going to be a full investigation. And I mean, like, shoot, Dr. Fauci, Hunter Biden just might be seeing their day in court. You know what? I mean, to be honest.
Going to jail. Lock his ass up. Lock his ass up. You're going to jail. You're going to jail.
Hey, man, he needs to.
We need answers, and people need to be held responsible for what is now quickly becoming the biggest White House political scandal of our lifetime. Maybe we should call it Dementia Gate, but somehow Democrats still don't seem to get it. Remember, back in March, failed vice presidential candidate Tim Walz.
Shout out joining in the city. He says DocuSign was president for 4 years. Was president for 4 years. It's wild. He's like, yeah, man. Shout out to DocuSign. Like, what you mean? They just sent it to the top Biden official and said, what you think about this? The president's kind of out of order right now. Like, fuck it, don't matter. And then 2 weeks later, Russia invades Ukraine. I know, right?
He wanted a shadow government to counter the Trump administration. You might recall. Take a look.
I've been saying this. I think we need a shadow government so when all these things come up every single day, we've got an alternate press conference telling the truth about what things are happening.
Wow.
Democracy in peril.
I mean, they kind of got that going on with the courts already. So, I mean, I guess what was his name? Dang, Tim, who? Tim Walz. Tim Walz. I guess Tim Walz kind of manifested that one.
A shadow government, alternate press conferences, sounds like a blatant attempt to subvert the will of the American people. Now, not to be outdone, though, Politico is now fantasizing about what a shadow Democratic cabinet would even look like, which includes, and you can't make it up, Giselle Fetterman, Nikki Glaser, the comedian, Jon Stewart, the comedian, Letitia James, and others. That's more akin to like an Orwellian nightmare than a legitimate cabinet. And what about this Broadway star, Patti LuPone, who allegedly told
it just seems like the top people in America that will gaslight you. It's like you go in there, you try to have a real argument, you're just getting gaslit the entire time by like 8 different people.
The New Yorker that the Kennedy Center should, quote, get blown up.
Damn.
How is that not a threat? Remember Madonna said, I think, an awful lot about blowing up the White House. If Democrats want to find the true threat to democracy, they just need to look in the mirror, because it's kind of hard to imagine a bigger threat to our democratic republic, or democracy, as they say, than a group of unelected bureaucrats allegedly taking advantage of a obviously cognitively struggling president to implement their own radical left wing agenda. The very people that tried to tell you Donald Trump is a threat to democracy were actually the real threat themselves. Hey, Sean.
I know the Dems are mad. You guys elected Joe Biden, but instead you got the auto pen. It sucks, don't it? But shout out to Jonah in the scenery. He says, Shadow Gov, that's what a tampon would say. Shout out to Jonah in the scenery, man. Unlimited trolling. All right, now let's get into some lefties losing it. I haven't reacted to these guys in a minute.
But it's time for Lefties Losing It. And the ladies of The View have become so toxic, so unlikable and full of bile that even the woke warriors at ABC and parent company Disney are telling them to tone down their political commentary, to just rethink the constant anti-Trump hate and hysteria, to perhaps, I don't know, stick to the facts so they don't have to issue so many corrections and apologies. But sadly, these ladies will not be told. They are going to keep up the lies and hate. Here is Whoopi Goldberg lying about Donald Trump again, firstly claiming Memorial Day was the first time Trump has said anything positive about Gold Star families.
It was about time we heard him give the Gold Star families their due. It was about time he did that, because he spoke and said, we're proud of our Gold Star families.
Are you serious? Lady, Biden didn't even go to their funeral. Nobody in Biden administration went to those 13 Gold Star families' funeral. And it was under his, I guess, who knows? Like, it was under his administration that atrocity happened. That we lost 13 soldiers and a whole lot more, and a lot of them got wounded. And you're telling me that, oh, it's about time Trump recognized them. He went to their damn funeral. He went to their graves. And then you got to try to say, oh, no, he went there for a photo op. It's like, really? Are you serious? But where was Biden, though? Was Biden at those fallen soldiers' graves? I don't think so. I'm not trying to hear that.
This is the first time, at least maybe, unless you've heard him do it.
No, he's hosted them at the White House in his first term.
Right, but the last time we collectively heard him talking about Gold Star families, it was not positive.
It was only last September when these hysterical harpies were criticizing Donald Trump for visiting Arlington National Cemetery with Gold Star families.
I just said that too. I'm just like, bro, the man was out there really meeting these guys. He was doing things for the family. I'm like, what? Biden didn't even do this. I remember I was actually offended. I was like, hold on. How dare y'all even try to say that Trump don't respect vets when Biden didn't even go to vets' funerals, fallen soldier funerals? He didn't even go to one. So you guys can't even bring up the whole, sucker and loser argument, which has been debunked many times.
The left said that was politicizing Arlington. And let's not forget the Gold Star families that endorsed Donald Trump at the Republican National.
Politicizing them. Oh, wow. You mean just like you try to celebrate that young man with cancer, you says, oh, he politicized that little boy. Y'all didn't want to stand for that man being, congratulated. And his dream coming true. You Dems, you didn't want to stand for that.
National Convention. But that's apparently the first time he has mentioned them or said anything positive, according to Whoopi. Now let's hear from Misery Guts Joy Behar, who wonders why the commander-in-chief is even speaking at West Point. Then she claims that Donald Trump is walking into walls.
So why would they invite him to speak at West Point? And wearing the hat was a political move also. That shows you that
the commander-in-chief
it's
of the
politics.
armed
The hat is
forces.
politics. It's not about
All right,
anything
this is just
but
hating
that.
at a certain
So
point.
he's supposed to be not political at West Point or Arlington Cemetery. And there he is being political and rambling. Jake Tapper needs to do another book. Because he was rambling, he's running around. I see pictures of him walking into walls.
Bro. I missed. That might have been AI. Because if I ever seen Trump walking into walls, you know what? I'll agree with you. I'll be like, yeah, go ahead and give that man a test. You know what? Go ahead and test him out, guys. Actually, test him 3 times.
And if you think she's miserable and delusional, let's hear from Anna Navarro, who is only happy when she's out of the country and away from Trump. You know what, Anna? You can always stay out. Perhaps you could join Rosie in Ireland.
I was out of the country, and for 5 blissful days, I didn't hear his voice. I had no cell service and I had no TV. But then I come in and I watch a clip like this one, up to your point of what you were just talking. Can we see the clip?
Yeah.
As a linguist, translator, and cryptologic technician.
Right. I mean, if Joe Biden said that, right, we'd be talking about his cognitive skills and cognitive decline for days. But
why does the media avoid it with him? Tell me.
Yes, Donald Trump mispronouncing one difficult word means he's Joe Biden now, who routinely spoke incoherent sentences, who struggled to deliver the simplest lines of an auto cue. These ladies are really clutching at straws, and this is after they've been told to dial back their lefty lunacy. Now, Whoopi not only had a go at Donald Trump, defamed Donald Trump, she also attacked J.D. Vance and Pete Hegseth, men who risk their lives serving their country.
Pete Hegseth knows better. He knows what it's like to be a service person. Vice President Vance knows. He knows how hard it was, because I'm sure one of the reasons he went there is to elevate his life. He comes from very, very poor people. And the fact that you don't stand up and say, you can't do this to these folks. I've worked with them. I know what they go through. Instead, we get this kind of...
She was so enraged, she couldn't even finish that sentence. You know, the way these hysterical harpies are carrying on, you think there was a crisis in the military. Instead, the opposite is true. Morale is finally high after years of degradation.
I mean, when people just lose their composure over Trump, it is absolutely hilarious. Like, I know pretty composed people until you bring up Trump. It's so crazy. Like, TDS is real, because the most composed people I know in life that are just liberals, as soon as you mention Trump, bro, they just lose it. They just lose it. They won't let you finish a sentence, and they're not even arguing like against you. They're just telling you how such a bad person Trump is, just rattling all the stuff that you hear on CNN and from these political pundits that are leaning on the left, like Harry Sisson and all that. Sisson, whatever. I call him Sissy.
And the evidence of that is in the recruitment numbers, which have surged to new highs. They surged to record numbers after Donald Trump's election triumph back in November and have stayed high ever since. But facts and figures are abhorrent to the ladies of The View. Let's end our little View catch-up with Joy Behar, who left her phone on during filming, so very professional there, Joy, and listen to her say that she would rather die than be saved by a Trump supporter.
I wouldn't even let him give me a Heimlich maneuver. That's how little
I mean, y'all got to cut the bullshit. I love when people have these dramatic situations like, I would not let a Trump supporter save me. Really? So in that life and death situation, you think about your family, your friends, and your kids and all that about to die, and you see a Trump supporter reaching his hand, are you going to be like, nope, fuck it, I'm done. Just let me fall into the ocean. It's like, okay, lie again. Like it's never that real. It's like I would never let a Kamala supporter save me. Hell yeah, I would. Shit, if I need it.
I feel about people. I don't know.
Well, and a MAGA supporter is like
calling you right now.
I got it.
Somebody's.
I fixed it.
Now let's check in with someone who seems to be auditioning for The View, actress Kira Sedgwick. She's married to Kevin Bacon, in case you're interested. Well, she seems to think that women in America are about to lose their right to vote.
Wondering how you're feeling about the state of our union. Finding myself
The fact that women were buying the Handmaid's Tale. I mean, y'all literally thought we was gonna put you in the Handmaid's Tale was probably the funniest thing I've heard. I'm like, oh, we're all gonna be forced to have babies because Trump's gonna cancel abortion. I'm like, hold on. I actually watched the Handmaid's Tale. And it wasn't because they had no abortion while women were being forced to have kids. It kind of had something to do on the whole population, which, you know what, isn't too far outside the realm of possibility now that I think about it. If the population was to get too low, who knows, women, who knows? But hey, that's up to y'all, though. I mean, you better have more babies if you don't want a handsmailed maidens or whatever solution. If you don't want that solution, have more babies. There you go. You'll avoid it right there and then. You ain't got to complain to us about it.
Think that women in America are about to lose their right to vote.
Wondering how you're feeling about the state of our union. Finding myself pretty scared about a lot of things. Scared about losing my rights as a woman. Scared about losing my right to vote as a woman. Scared about losing autonomy.
Now, here's the thing. I have to ask her, ma'am, when did Trump ever run on just appealing the 19th? Like, I mean, I know there would be some MAGA supporters who would low-key be on board with it, but I'm just saying, though, when did the man ever, run on that?
Autonomy over my body as a woman.
I would have thought her abortion days would be.
You do look like Dylan Mulvaney, though. You guys are wild. As soon as I seen it, I was like, nah, y'all effed up. Shame on Chad, bro. Shame on y'all.
Men scared about losing my right to vote as a woman. Scared about losing autonomy over my body as a woman.
I would have thought her abortion days were behind her, but maybe I'm wrong. And in any case, you can get even late-term abortions in most blue states, most blue cities. But let's listen to more of this Hollywood star's unfounded fears.
Scared of my parents' Social Security checks. Scared of food banks running out of food and not being able to replenish because they're no longer getting federal funding.
She really is part of the awful phenomenon. Awful standing for AWFL, affluent white.
I actually stand with Rubio when he said, all right, hold on. You're telling me that nobody else in the world is offering humanitarian aid? Hold on, you're telling me if we withdraw our aid or just a little bit of it, all these people are just going to die. There's no other country. I remember one congresswoman made the point of, well, if we don't do it, China's going to do it. And these guys are just going to align with China then. And I'm like, bro, go ahead. If you want to work, if they want to work with the Communist Party of China, that's just going to lease their own land to them, go ahead. I could give a damn.
Right, female lefties. Let's check in on AWF Latino, Jennifer Lopez, still works. She raised a few eyebrows with this performance. And she was pretty happy with herself afterward.
I never was a fan of that lesbian stuff.
There were little spicy moments in there.
There are little spicy moments in there. I hear the kisses are going viral. Yeah.
No doubt.
Madonna and Britney did that like 20 years ago. It's a bit lame these days. But the kisses going viral is one thing. Something else that's going viral are questions about why J-Lo was so keen to warn America about the dangers of Donald Trump. Remember this?
He has consistently worked to divide us. At Madison Square Garden, he reminded us who he really is and how he really feels.
How he really feels.
It wasn't just Puerto Ricans that were offended that day. Okay? It was every Latino in this country. It was humanity and anyone of decent character.
Come on.
Decent.
The man made a joke about Puerto Rico having a whole lot of trash on it. And it does. And Puerto Rico does have a trash problem. I mean, J-Lo, like, why weren't you talking about it?
character, she says. Yeah, she was very keen to warn America about Donald Trump, but she's P. Diddy's former girlfriend. Why didn't she warn the world about him? Didn't warn all the potential future victims about what sort of man he was and what sort of antics he got up to. We've all seen the hotel tape. Now, here is a world leader losing her, or at least his partner, Brigitte. Here's Brigitte slapping, slapping the French president.
I mean, I guess the push heard around the world, right? Act right.
Let's have a closer look at that in slow motion, please.
I'm weak, boy. I'd have smacked the hell out of that dude. I mean, no, never mind. Y'all think she's a woman, but you know what? I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like I'm a world. If I was a world leader and that happened to me, I gotta pull out that Sean Connery all of a sudden, like all of a sudden. You feel me? Because you can't be in front of the world, bro. You pretty much got poked by your wife in front of the world. It's like the one time we can appreciate a Sean Connery moment. Like if Dana White can get away with it, Emmanuel Macron can get away with it.
That looked like a slap to me, a double-handed one, but the French president claims otherwise.
A video can be made to say a lot of nonsense. She pushed you in the face and then y'all walked off very awkwardly. And then everybody who walked off on the plane before you had a very awkward look. I mean, bruh, what else? And then you allegedly had a bag of Coke on the table, which was, you said, was tissue. So, I mean, this man, Emmanuel Macron, man, it's like y'all just unraveling. Like ever since Candace Owens done dropped that, well, you know, Bridget Macron documentary series, things hasn't been looking too well for them. In these 3 videos, I picked up a tissue, shook someone's hand, allegedly a bag of Coke, but yeah. And just joked around with my wife as we often do. I don't know, man. I don't know. That ain't look like a joke around. I mean, maybe like the little one, but nah, she double hand pushed you in the face. Like you said, son, disrespectful.
I don't know if it looks like a backhander and feels like a backhander. It's probably a backhander, Emmanuel.
But you still got it.
Now let's hear from 60 Minutes anchor Scott Pelley, who happily pushed the Russian collusion hoax and was an active participant in covering up Joe Biden's cognitive decline and the dodgy business dealings of the Biden family. Remember 60 Minutes claiming the laptop was Russian disinformation? Well, old Scott gave a commencement speech at Wake Forest University recently, and it was a hot mess. Listen to this unhinged anti-Trump hyperbole.
Our sacred rule of law is under attack. Okay. Journalism is under attack. Universities are under attack. Freedom of speech is under attack. And insidious fear is reaching through our schools, our businesses, our homes, and into our private thoughts.
These guys.
The fear to speak in America.
Joining me now is Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel Josh Hammer. Josh,
pretty sure he's just upset about the whole fact that, you know, Trump is out here, well, deporting student visas because you're supposed to be in class. You're supposed to be here for education, not to be an activist. And if you want to do that, well, do it in your own country. And, you know, that's how we just get them up out of here. And it is what it is, guys. Like I said, you can do that in your own country. But all right, now let's go to this pardoning spree that they're complaining about. Because here's the thing. I was seeing this all over the internet, but I couldn't really see the controversy in it because I don't know about these two. But they got a pardon from Trump, so let's hear about it.
Loyalty will get you everywhere. One defining characteristic of President Donald Trump has long been that he judges worth in part based on how loyal people are to him. And this week we're seeing this manifest rapidly in the form of something of a Trump loyalty rewards program, pardons and job offers. Let's start with his latest pardon palooza. Yesterday, he pardoned his reality TV brethren, Todd and Julie Chrisley, who could walk out of prison in Pensacola, Florida at any moment. The two are stars of the show Chrisley Knows Best on USA Network.
We're the Chrisleys, Todd and Julie Chrisley. We live in a neighborhood north of Atlanta, a gated neighborhood with celebrities here.
Trump pardons reality TV star convicted of fraud and tax crimes. Okay. I don't know. I mean, it looked like they might have did it.
The Chrisleys traded that gated neighborhood for the gates of a prison. They were convicted of bank and tax fraud in 2022, conspiring to defraud banks in Atlanta of more than $30 million. Their Trump loyalty connection, the Chrisleys' daughter, Savannah, spoke at the Republican National Convention last year. She helped campaign for Trump. Another Trump pardon yesterday went to Paul Walzak, a former nursing home executive who pleaded guilty.
Okay, I can see the conflict of interest. I'll be honest. I'll be honest. I can see that.
To tax crimes, he admitted to using money earmarked for employees' taxes to fund his own rather extravagant lifestyle. The loyalty connection, his mommy dearest. The New York Times reports that Walzak's pardon application to Trump said that his mother raised millions for Trump and other Republicans, and also highlighted her role trying to hurt President Biden's 2020 campaign. But Walzak's reprieve did not come, the Times reports, until mom showed up last month at a $1 million per person fundraising dinner at Mar-a-Lago that included direct access to Trump. It is not clear whether Walzak's mom donated the $1 million. Still, a few weeks later, poof, a pardon. Before that, on Monday, Trump pardoned former Culpeper, Virginia Sheriff Scott Jenkins, as we reported yesterday, recently convicted of federal bribery charges, which outraged the good citizens of Culpeper County. He was caught accepting cash-stuffed envelopes from rich civilians who wanted badges. The loyalty connection. Well, Jenkins is a long-time Trump supporter who reportedly appealed to Trump directly for clemency. More in just a moment on Trump's talk today of yet another controversial pardon possibility. But first, the other benefit of Trump's loyalty rewards program after Trump fired inspectors general at 19 government agencies in an unprecedented purge at the beginning of this new administration. Some of his picks to replace those inspectors general have rather partisan backgrounds with a history of MAGA Trump loyalty. Trump's Inspector General nominee for Health and Human Services, for example, Thomas March Bell, resigned from a government job over an allegation of mishandling $8,000 in taxpayer money. There's Trump's choice for Veterans Affairs watchdog, Cheryl Mason. Cheryl Mason remains a senior advisor to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins, according to documents reviewed by CNN, which might, of course, make it difficult to be an independent voice of oversight over his department. Trump's pick to investigate waste, fraud, and abuse at the Department of Labor is Anthony D'Esposito.
So what we're getting here is, well, it does sound like they're coming after the president for his pardoning power as well now. Because, it's not only CNN, but I also believe it's MSNBC. Like, bro, watch this. This is MSNBC. Rogue pardoning spree exposes Trump's political game and actual indifference to crime. All right, let's hear. And here's the thing. I would actually like to hear the background of this, because hopefully it's not like Steve Bannon, where they just came up with crimes on the man because he was working with Trump. Let's hope that's not the case.
It was basically a textbook case of bribery and abuse of power, all caught on video and photos.
Okay.
Which is why the FBI charged that sheriff with conspiracy, fraud, and multiple counts of criminal bribery. It's also why he was convicted of those crimes and sentenced to 10 years in federal prison. 10 years. But today, Culpeper County's corrupt, bribe-taking sheriff, that is a tongue twister, is a free man. All thanks to Donald Trump. Because the president just issued a full and unconditional pardon to former Culpeper County Sheriff Scott Jenkins. Okay. Why? Well, it might have something to do with the fact that Scott Jenkins is part of the MAGA faithful and definitely has ties to Trump world. I mean, he's also a fellow at the far-right Claremont Institute, a conservative think tank that employs several former Trump officials. So he definitely has ties to them. Now, after his pardon was announced, Trump's pardon attorney put an even finer point on it, tweeting, "No MAGA left behind." Subtlety has never really been these guys' strong suit, has it? Now, Trump pardoning random corrupt MAGA.
Now, I can kind of see where the Trump administration or MAGA is going to say, oh, these guys were attacked because they were Trump supporters, and this is what the left did. They put these guys behind bars, yada, yada, yada. Well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't know. I got to wait till this plays out. Because honestly, if they did commit the crime as egregiously as they're framing it, then yeah, this is wrong and they should stay in jail. And I do disagree with the Trump administration on this call.
Officials, which is what this is a case of, is a scandal unto itself. And Jenkins is far from the only example. But it's especially galling when you consider the people Trump actually does want to prosecute. I mean, it was just last week when Trump called for investigations into several celebrities, Bruce Springsteen, Beyonce, Oprah, claiming that their endorsements of Kamala Harris during the 2024 election somehow constituted illegal campaign contributions. Now, all of those claims appeared to be completely baseless, and forgive me for this one, ludicrously Trumpy. But if Donald Trump is going to claim he really, really cares about illegal campaign contributions, well, then maybe
I don't know. This doesn't really have any. Hold on now, sis. This doesn't have anything to do with illegal campaign contributions. It's about the character of the people that he's pardoning. Can we stick to that?
he shouldn't have just pardoned a corrupt sheriff who took illegal campaign bribes to give unqualified people positions of power. Maybe not. And it's not just this one case. I mean, on almost every issue Trump claims to care about, there's a pardon that proves he doesn't really care at all. For instance, Trump and his presidential BFF, you know who I'm talking about, have spent the last several months claiming they are really concerned about so-called waste and fraud in America's entitlement programs. We've covered here on the show how Trump and Musk's changes to Social Security have made it significantly harder for seniors to get help with their benefits, all in the name of rooting out fraud. We've also covered how Trump's big ugly bill in Congress would make dramatic cuts to Medicaid and Medicare, also in the name, according to them, of course, of rooting out fraud. I mean, just listen to the way they talk about this. Basically, anytime they are asked to.
You know what? I wonder what they're going to say about NBA YoungBoy as well. I wonder if they're going to sit there and just say, oh, Trump released this black kid who was a criminal. I wonder, because you know what? I wouldn't be mad if they did it. I just wonder if they're just going to keep that same, objectivity to, NBA YoungBoy, because he's a criminal. It's just that he's black. So I hope that they keep that same objectiveness to, NBA YoungBoy. Then again, though, they let him off the hook and let you know where they really stand. But like I said, I'm gonna look it up. I'm gonna look up what's going on these two. Because to be honest, I've been hearing about them. They've been posting them all over social media, but I haven't gotten too much details about the case. And here's the thing: right-leaning media has not covered this for some reason. I mean, it is a bit strange, just like how right-leaning media hasn't really covered, the striking down of Trump's tariffs. But don't worry, man. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here, guys. I got y'all.
He is a Trump-supporting former Republican congressman who lost his New York seat to a Democrat after Despacito was accused of putting his mistress and his fiance's daughter on his payroll. Taken together, it could all be perceived as a great deal of incentive to join the Trump loyalty rewards program, though points, we should note, do expire. Let's go to CNN's Caitlin Collins. Caitlin, more Trump pardons coming down just in the last hour.
Yeah, they keeping in track. And shout out to my man Parabolic Curvature. He says, the guilty dog barks the loudest. They are corrupt. While doing corrupt things, they pay for endorsements. I'm weak. Well, you know what? Like I said, I want to wait for all the facts to come out on these guys. Now, was this supposed to be part of these political attacks that the left is trying to cover up on because they know they sent the DOJ on these guys? Like, I want to know what's actually going on here, to be quite honest with you. Come on, they did the same thing with Steve Bannon, and that turned out to be BS. So I kind of want to figure out everything that's going on first, so before I make these assumptions. And this is all coming out within the past couple of hours, guys. So we're kind of early on this story.
Jake, we saw the president earlier.
And remember, it makes Trump look bad. And I'm pretty sure that on the right, we're still kind of fact checking things and making sure, we don't put stuff out there going like, oh, well, they were attacked by the Bidens, or, oh, well, what about Biden? I don't kind of want to play that game with this. I kind of want to make sure we're coming from a factual perspective. And also, if they're coming with a factual perspective about all their charges and there is no, I mean, no hidden intentions about their crimes or their investigation, then yeah, this would be a blunder on the Trump administration. I would have to admit that.
Earlier in the Oval Office, and clearly since then there has been a lot of use of the president's pardon power that has been happening here at the White House, because we already knew about some of these key names. The Chrisleys, as we reported on yesterday, the president called to inform their daughter that her parents would be getting a pardon. We should expect to see at least one of them leave prison as soon as today. Also Michael Grimm, the former New York congressman, who has been pardoned as well. But we're also just getting a list of a slew of other names, Jake, that the president has now pardoned. That includes the former governor of Connecticut, John Rowland, who was twice convicted. It also includes a rapper who goes by the name of NBA Youngboy. He was convicted in some federal gun crimes cases.
Okay.
And a slew of other names on here as well. Jake, Kevin Basden.
Hey, hold on. No, talk about NBA Youngboy though. He's a very hot rapper, and this man Trump once again pardons a rapper. I mean, he's gonna win back. He's gonna win back some of the guys in the hood with that one. I'll tell you that right now. He done won back a little bit of the, as we call, YNs, or the young guys in the black community, with that one right there, which I do not agree with. I'll be quite honest with you. You should have kept that young man in jail. He needs to be in jail. Goddamn it, he needs to learn his lesson. But Trump gave him a pardon. See, even I kind of disagree with that. I'll be honest with you. But the young man does have a family, and has been showing positive results in jail, which I've been hearing about. So, I mean, hey, I can get over it, but I don't like it.
Mark Bashaw, Tanner Mansell, and John Moore Jr. A few of those names at the end that may not be household names, but clearly each have individual reasons why the president has chosen to grant them clemency with this power, and to use the power that every president has, and certainly President Biden himself we saw using on his way out of the White House as well. But President Trump's, what's notable here, Jake, in addition to the names that you just read off, and clearly the connections that they have politically when it comes to this president, is seeing such a slew of pardons so early on in the administration. Trump came into his second term pardoning people on day one. He pardoned virtually everyone who was convicted in a crime related to January 6th from the Oval Office within hours of taking the oath. And then today we are continuing to see him use this power wield.
I mean, at least he didn't give blanket pardons. I'll say this. He gave pardons to people that, well, were convicted. And they're not giving blanket pardons to people who wasn't even investigated yet. But y'all saw no problem with that, though. Y'all saw no problem with that. So I would always say this. The reason why a lot of people ain't really listening to her argument, which I understand for my guys in the chat. I understand why you're not listening to it, because you're like, bro, they really sat in there complaining about pardons, and they gave out blanket pardons. Trust me, guys, I hear you on that argument, and you're right. You're right. But we do got to call BS on our side as well. And this would be some BS if, these guys actually committed these fraudulent crimes. We're kind of just letting them, walk away into the sunset with it.
This power. In addition to this list of pardons, Jake, there's also a few commutations as well that are included in this list. And one note, when we saw the president earlier inside the Oval Office, he was asked whether or not he is considering also pardoning the people who were convicted in the plot to kidnap the Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, who herself was here at the White House not too long ago. And the president said, yes, he was, Jake.
Caitlin Collins, thanks so much.
Hold on. Can you play that clip, Caitlin? Because that doesn't sound correct. You did not just say that Trump said, oh, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pardon the guy that try to kidnap a governor. I mean, you're going to have to fact check that one. I'm pretty sure that's an egregious lie. I'm 100% positive that is an egregious lie. There's no way the president would sit there and say, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and pardon a bunch of guys who try to pretty much unalive or kidnap a governor. Sure, why not?
Caitlin, of course, is going to have much more tonight at 9 on her own show, The Source with Caitlin Collins. CNN has some brand new reporting on the man in charge of helping secure new pardons for President Trump and how he's building this list. I want to bring in CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. Paula, tell us more.
So, Jake, after Ed Martin failed to secure confirmation as the U.S. attorney here in D.C., President Trump tapped him for 2 really big jobs at the Justice Department, one of which is the pardon attorney. Now, historically, this is an office that vets requests for clemency and makes recommendations to the White House. Something that is unique to President Trump is he makes a lot of those decisions himself. But now I'm told, with Martin in charge of this office, he has a whole staff that can help vet these requests that I'm told are pouring in from law firms, lobbyists, and interest groups, all trying to seek some form of clemency for various individuals. Now, I'm told Martin is going to ask everyone to fill out a traditional pardon application because, as you know, there have been a lot of questions about how exactly you get clemency from President Trump. So Martin trying to establish a paper trail here. I'm told he has already vetted dozens of requests for commutations and made recommendations on those. But this particular job, Jake, this gives him a lot of power to reward those who have been loyal to Trump.
And Paula, Ed Martin has also been tapped.
But then we can't act like you guys hadn't done the same thing. Whoa, is that like a white Lala Anthony? Crazy how she got that. But anyway, though, but let's get over to something a little bit more on the, well, not even can say conspiracy side, man. Let's get over to the, I ain't gonna lie, probably one of the best journalists ever. Probably one of the best ones ever, man. This man, James O'Keefe. Shout out. He was on PBD, and hey, it definitely got real, and I like him because he goes for both sides. All right, guys, let's get right into it. This was actually pretty good. And guys, let's make sure we double tap that screen and like the video. And you can send any question, comments, jokes, or even disagreements. I'll be happy to engage, and he'll go ahead and sign you up for the call in. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going.
That's correct. The FBI, no one's ever seen this before. I get sent this. I'm like, holy shit. This is not public.
Someone inside the United States government gave that to you.
That's correct. The FBI pointed guns at me and took my reporter's notebooks because I have to call my lawyer. And the moment that I unlock my phone, they snatched the phone out of my hand because I unlocked the phone. Now the FBI has access to all of my signal messages. Do you know what's in my signal messages? All the people in the government that come to me with information. And then they raid your house. Correct. That is the justification for the raid against James O'Keefe. So it means they can do whatever they want. That's a question that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel need to answer.
Will
they need to answer.
If you want something that is revolutionary, a breakthrough, it's Diddy because he's alive.
What is the thing that needs to be on video in your mind?
Oh, it's very easy for me.
Tell me.
I've never, ever talked about it on any podcast.
Right.
Ever. This is the first time.
I commit to you that I will do this. This is also very dangerous, wouldn't you admit, to do these stories?
Well, you subscribe to this lifestyle.
I almost feel like they're concerned that I'm going to like record them trying to bribe me, which I would. Of course.
Did you ever think you would make it? I feel I'm so.
I mean, James O'Keefe, man, the guys who be having, I mean, pretty much baddies, or sometimes the gay dudes, pretty much do covert ops, pretty much do spy work to get the drop on these government officials, or well, people in these I guess high positions in corporations, like, you know, big pharma and all that good stuff.
Thing I ever saw is right here. What was he up to? He was spending money. He was doing this. He was taking helicopter rides. He was taking one too many Ubers and black cars and all this stuff. This is what you kind of see in then your apology letter. But walk us through what happened with Project Veritas.
Thank you for having me. This film I've released, The Truth Inside Veritas, takes you inside of Project Veritas, which fired me.
And let me show you an example of Project Veritas if you're not familiar on what, you know, James O'Keefe does. All right, now, guys, this is John Bryant, Prince Andrew's crisis advisor, British royal family. Check out what this man got caught saying pretty much to a date.
He was in the Navy with 250 days at sea. Never saw it again. I was really pissed because he lied to me. Epstein. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew. And then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, there was underage girls. That's not cool.
John Bryan has been a close confidant to the British royal family for a long time. He worked for Queen Elizabeth II, was, quote, best friends with Princess Diana, and had a long-term intimate relationship with the Duchess of York, Sarah Ferguson. According to Bryan, he practically raised Sarah Ferguson's children, the princesses Beatrice and Eugene. And Bryan said that he maintained a friendship with Ferguson's husband, the Duke of York, Prince Andrew.
Tell me like your story. So my story. You want to know my story? What? Like I've been so famous at times when I was on the front page of every newspaper in the And because I was working with the Queen of England.
Okay.
You know, she was Queen Elizabeth. I was working with all the families, Princess Diana, my best friend. And I met the Duchess of York.
Okay.
That's Prince Andrew's wife. They were separated. And then Sarah and I sort of fell in love. And we lived together for like 7 years in my house in England. And I raised their 2 little children. They're so cute.
Wait, her
Beatrice and usually. Those were my children. Those were my kids. I raised those kids. Day to day raised. I was father to those.
Prince Andrew's connection to Jeffrey Epstein emerged in 2010, when photos showed them walking together in New York's Central Park. Epstein had already been convicted in 2008 of procuring a 14-year-old girl for prostitution. In 2014, a woman named Virginia Giuffre alleged in a Florida court filing that
R.I.P. because she did recently commit suicide, I believe, a couple weeks ago.
Jeffrey Epstein paid her to have sex with Prince Andrew when she was 17, a minor. On April 25th, a few weeks ago, Giuffre died by, quote, suicide. Prince Andrew denied Giuffre's sex abuse allegations in a now infamous 2019 BBC interview.
She said she had sex with you 3 times, once on his private island in a group of 7 or 8 other girls.
No.
The cap.
No to all of it.
All of it.
Stop the cap.
Absolutely no to all of it.
Stop the cap.
The interview was a public relations disaster for the royal family and prompted the Queen to strip Prince Andrew of his royal duties. In the aftermath of that interview, the prince sought advice from a longtime royal family confidant, John Bryan.
Oh, very good. Oh, no, we're very civilized. We go have dinner. We'd have dinner at my house to see his kids. So then we go on holiday in the south of France. And I get a big property, like 10 acres, right near Central Bay, right? You know, nobody.
Oh, he flexing.
I'm on the biggest property, beautiful house. I rent it so that we have privacy, right? Because the paparazzi are everywhere. There's hundreds of paparazzi, not 10, not 20, hundreds. I know.
And this is already one of Prince Andrew.
Yes, Prince Andrew. Yeah, he's on the. He was in the Navy. He was 250 days at sea. He never saw his family.
2 weeks after Prince Andrew's BBC interview, John Bryan was brought to the Royal Lodge, where Prince Andrew lives, to offer crisis management advice. According to The Telegraph, the meeting was conducted discreetly. At the royal residence, Bryan observed that Prince Andrew was visibly distressed and struggling to focus, reportedly unable to concentrate for more than 40 minutes at a time due to the strain he was under. As reported in the Daily Mail, John Bryan constructed a 5-page document emphasizing that Prince Andrew should publicly show empathy for Epstein's victims. Back in November 2022, Bryan publicly stated that he believed Prince Andrew was innocent of the claims made against him related to the Jeffrey Epstein sex trafficking scheme. Now, in our exclusive hidden camera undercover footage, John Bryan reveals for the first time that Prince Andrew did in fact have sex with underage girls.
Other girls. I was so pissed about that. I was really pissed. I was really pissed because he lied to me about it. Epstein. Yeah. No, I knew he saw him, but he lied to me that he was such a close friend. And then I did a big thing in the Daily Mail saying that I believed Andrew, and then I found out he was lying. I was so pissed. No, there was underage girls.
Yo.
Now, our newsroom
And you know what's so crazy? This same man, this guy right here came out on Pierce Morgan and said, you know what, man, the lady was beautiful, and I ain't gonna lie, I was lying. I was capping so I could have a good story. And I'm just like, bro, hey man, when you gotta lie, pretty much saying that you was telling a lie on a date, I'd have to ask him. I'm like, then whoa, bro, come on, dog. You're really gonna lie to impress a girl about your alleged friend messing with underage girls?
You what?
Like, come on, dog. That doesn't even make sense. Now, in the beginning, I heard the flexing, like, I work for the royal family, I'm in it with the prince and all that good stuff. You feel it, baby. Like, you feel the royal vibes going on, and I felt it. He was boasting. But to mention that, I don't know, bro. It sounds like you got a little bit too drunk and you let some truth kind of slip out there, because why would you even, say that?
Now, our newsroom has some concerns about where this investigation is headed and who may be implicated. But our only motivation in doing these stories is the public's right to know. And if this report and our subsequent reports shine a light into darkness and expose evil, then we are willing to take the risks. At the end of the day, child victims of Jeffrey Epstein need to be protected, and the people involved need to be held accountable by law enforcement immediately. Without accountability, our notion of freedom is just an illusion.
All right. Now let's get right back over to my man's interview. So now that you have an idea of what he does.
2.5 years ago. And it shows you what happened at the board meeting.
Yeah.
Where they were throwing all these grievances out at me. You hear the grievances, you meet the employees, and you meet this board member in federal court because they sued me. So they fired me. They indefinitely suspended me without pay, aka terminated me.
Goddamn.
So I just started a new organization called OMG, O'Keefe Media Group, which I've been doing. And then they sued me to try to shut OMG down. So in this deposition footage, in the video tapes from federal court, depositions are public proceedings. I took the depositions, I put them in the movie, and you see what happened. And it's an insane story. It's a crazy story.
Yeah. Well, so the events, the sequencing of the events, which is kind of weird, is when you got the big Pfizer, one of the directors that talks about what they were doing, Rob, if you want to go through the timeline. So the sequencing was kind of weird. When you first are, I want to see if I got the dates here or not. Let me see. Yeah, right there, January 2023. Yes. We hear about the, under your leadership, release an undercover video featuring a man identified as Jordan Tristan Walker. This is the one that he's running out.
Yeah, this is the biggest story.
This is the biggest
ever.
story, guys, at the peak.
The director, the mRNA director of scientific research at Pfizer, talking about mutating the virus at Pfizer. This video was viewed an insane amount of times. I confront this guy. If you remember this, I confronted him with a microphone, and he physically assaulted me.
That's right, I remember that.
And
Okay, let's make sure to support the show with any questions, comments, jokes, or disagreements. Appreciate the support, guys. Hey, man, let's keep it going, and make sure you double tap the screen and like and subscribe.
Took the iPad out of my hand and he smashed it on the ground.
Yep.
This is the gay date, the gay guy at Pfizer. YouTube took it down. It's still on X, and he's talking about directed evolution at Pfizer, something that Pfizer denies, but he says it. He's a director at the company. And we released this video, and I confront him in a restaurant in New York City. And a week later, I was removed from Project Veritas. So conspiracy theories were abound. Did Pfizer bribe somebody? Did they put pressure on people? This is the guy, Jordan Walker. There he is right there.
Change your music.
Oh, I remember this guy.
Yeah, this is a Yale-educated doctor, director, high up within Pfizer Pharmaceutical.
Trying to get loose.
And there he is freaking out. Grabbed the iPad out of my hand. My cameraman had to, in self-defense, push him away because he was physically assaulting me. You could probably find a better video there. Oh, there's the one of him undercover. Click on that. Pfizer ultimately is thinking about mutating COVID, the undercover journalist asked. And he said, well, that is not what we say to the public. No, don't tell anybody what I'm telling you. Promise me you won't tell anybody.
Can we hear the audio of this guy saying this, Rob? Go back a little bit. Yeah, this part, I hope there's no Titanic music in the background, but go ahead.
not sure if you have audio on the clip.
And James, while he's looking for this, how in the world can you expose something like this guy, plain and simple, and then nothing happens? Like nothing happens. The truth is
to him or
but
to
no,
me?
let's stay on this.
Okay,
Let's
I'm sorry.
sequencing. Vinny,
Okay, my bad.
Let's stay on this. So while this is happening, this is being released. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have the audio, Rob, or no?
I do. Let's see.
Our undercover journalist asked
So you're
Walker
on a
how
date with
Pfizer
him, or
is
somebody
handling
else
the
is on a
fact
date
that
with him?
COVID vaccines are ineffective against virus variants. What he said is disturbing. Listen to this.
We're exploring, like, now, you know how the virus keeps mutating?
Yeah.
Well, one of the things we're exploring is, like, why don't we just mutate it ourselves so we could create undoubtedly develop new vaccines, right? So we have to do that. If we're going to do that, though, there's a risk of, like, as you could imagine, no one wants to be having a pharma company mutating viruses.
Yeah.
So we want to do this. So that's, like, one of the things we're considering.
Okay.
Like, the future, like,
that
maybe we
is
can, like,
insane.
create new versions of the vaccines and things like that.
All right, his name is what's this young man's name? Jordan Walker, Pfizer Director of Research and Development, Strategic Operations and mRNA Scientific Planning. This guy. He's a little bit too talkative to be out here in research and development.
Okay.
Like the future, like maybe we can, like, create new versions of the vaccines and things like that.
Okay, so Pfizer
So now,
ultimately
to the
is
audience
thinking
who may
about
not remember this, okay, we reacted to this multiple times.
Okay.
But how high ranking of a person is it?
Pretty high.
Okay, pretty
Fairly
high ranking.
At the time when I released this,
Right.
the mainstream media were like, well, we don't know if that's really a Pfizer director. They denied that this guy was who he was. I got internal Microsoft Teams messages from sources within Pfizer that confirmed he was who he said he was. He's a director.
Damn.
High up in the company, 2 below the chief executive officer. And high ranking guy.
Okay, so when that happens, you release that. What happens? Give me the sequencing of what happens with Project Veritas trying to fire you. The 25 employees that turned against you. What happened then?
Yeah, so this was released January 26, 2023. January 25th, pardon me. The confrontation was released the very next day in Brooklyn. It was just filmed in a pizza restaurant in Brooklyn. And then board meeting was on February the 6th, where they brought in a 6.5-hour grievance session. Out of 75 employees, about 12 employees spoke with these grievances, which is what you watched in the documentary. And then on February the 10th, they indefinitely suspended me without pay, aka fired me from Project Veritas.
Now, the claims they made is you fired a CFO and you fired, is it Hinckley or what's his first name?
Yes, but Barry Hinckley.
Barry Hinckley. So he was the chief strategy officer, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
So walk me through what their concern was. Because like, you don't have the right to fire the CFO or the chief strategy officer. Like, I'm the CEO, the founder. What do you mean I can't fire
They
you?
said that I was wrong for me to fire the chief financial officer.
Who is they? The board?
The board. These individuals that you saw in the film.
Right.
They, it's got their names: Matthew Tiermond, George Skakel, other individuals who no one knows their names, Joe Barton. But these board members said James does not have the authority, and it turns out I did have the authority. And the chief financial officer sent me a message on February the 2nd saying, we're going to have an emergency board meeting to remove you, James O'Keefe, as CEO. I was like taking off on an airplane at the time. I was like, this is the Twilight Zone. I said, what are you going to say to the public? Do you have a press release written? They said, no, the public doesn't need to know.
Wild. And like I said, my man James O'Keefe does good work. So let's go back and forth between, some of the work this man has done. Like, when he talked to this guy right here, my man Nicholas, Department of Defense branch chief. Let's get right into it, man. Shout out this man James O'Keefe.
Is the same guy who tried to overthrow an election. Is just like truly setting us down a path of dictatorship. He's illegitimate. He's clearly immoral, breaking every norm. We're gonna resist him. Everything he does.
James O'Keefe here in Arlington, Virginia, in front of the Pentagon. The branch chief inside the Pentagon saying on hidden camera he's going to resist against Trump and Hegseth. Now, since President Trump was elected and assigned Pete Hegseth as Secretary of Defense, the DOD has faced a number of leaks in the past few months from employees inside the Pentagon.
There's some type of deep state forces that want to make sure you don't stay there.
They've come after me from day one, just like they've come after President Trump. I mean, I've gotten a fraction
of what President Trump got in that first term.
The Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, has been going on media interviews expressing that there are people within the Pentagon who want to resist the president and hurt his policies.
I know exactly why I'm here, to rip out the insidious ideologies and not compromise and not back down, to reestablish standards and accountability.
Nicholas Turner.
I mean, this is the guy that they was pulling teeth on. I mean, when I say Pete Hegseth probably received the most brutal hearings I've heard. I mean, well, confirmation hearings, bro. His confirmation hearings were true entertainment. I almost want to run him back at a certain point.
A branch chief within the DOD, expressed dissatisfaction with his new boss, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, claiming he is too young for the job.
So I'm assuming that your boss isn't Pete Hegseth.
Ultimately, he is my boss.
Okay.
But this is insane. I actually know Pete Hegseth.
You do? Like personally?
But this is so crazy. Like, that's not a good reflection on me. That's a bad reflection on Trump. Like, nobody I know should be the Secretary of Defense.
Oh, no.
Like, he's insanely young to be the part, like, and he wasn't that high up in the military. He used to be in the DC National Guard.
Oh, did you guys work together? Or?
Yeah, I mean, in our side hustle in the National Guard.
Oh.
And I met him in my unit. He was just in my unit. And I don't know, I'm going on about who that's it.
Now, Nicholas Terza claims.
I don't know. It kind of sounds like bro hating. Sounds like he's like, oh, your date brought up Pete Hegseth. You kind of throwing Hegseth under the bus. Like, man, he ain't even all that. All right, he's my boss, but he ain't all that, man. I used to know, bro, back in the day. He ain't nothing.
That he knows Hegseth from the DC National Guard, but we spoke to a senior official at the Pentagon who said that's not true, that Hegseth has not ever heard of this man or seen him.
But what do you think the intent is? Is it like they want to hurt America?
I think they don't care who they hurt. To enact a change that they see making America in a populist conservative framework more traditional, even if that means being more sexist or racist or chauvinist.
Terza also saying on hidden camera he did not know he was being recorded, that Trump is an illegitimate president, an immoral dictator, and they plan to resist everything Trump does.
The same guy who tried to overthrow an election is just like truly setting us down a path of dictatorship. He's illegitimate. He's terribly immoral, breaking every norm. We're going to resist him. Everything.
And a branch chief at our Department of Defense. This is what you call part of the deep state. And the thing is, he don't even know it.
He does. I'm a very patriotic person, and I've never been less patriotic.
Now, the reason this is concerning, the Department of Defense is often directly responsible for the president's safety in the event of travel, events, campaign rallies, and everything else.
What's your least favorite thing about Trump?
Oh, that he utterly lacks any moral principle. The worst thing about him is his utter lack of moral principle. The second worst thing about him is how stupid he could be.
Should the president's safety be entrusted with people who believe that he is illegitimate and immoral? And here we have a field trip. Let's take a look. People are coming in. Hello, everyone. How you doing? This is James O'Keefe reporting live in front of the Pentagon at the Memorial, Air Force Memorial here in Arlington, Virginia.
Great work this man O'Keefe does. You got to give it to him. All right, now let's get back to it.
That you've seen, right? It's the clip with Bongino and Kash Patel.
Yes.
If you can pull that clip up, Rob. And, you know, these are two men that almost anybody who knows, I think that's the one right there. Almost anybody that knows them would call them patriots, right?
Yeah.
They've served their country. They've given their lives to the country. Dan has at the highest level, so has Kash Patel. And then we see this clip here that throws a lot of people off. Go for it, Rob.
Said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
I know it's hard work. You said.
And you saw people that have done body language. You know, Dan looks uncomfortable saying what he's saying. The way he answered it, you can tell they've role played that. And, now this is purely what people are speculating, right? And then you have this one clip with Pam Bondi. Rob,
Correct.
if you have the Pam Bondi one,
I'd like to play
so
that.
maybe walk us through what's going on here before we.
And I don't
play.
know if you want me to narrate live as opposed to watching me on the screen.
What's
narrate.
better to do?
And this is why I like James O'Keefe. He doesn't care. He'll go after both sides. He do not care. Like when he did this on Pam Bondi, it was absolute respect because I'm like, you know what? A lot of journalists would have hit that, especially those who voted for Trump. So you got to pay respect to that because I was like, yeah, I would have released it too. But he did the honorable thing. He's like, I released it to her. Then Pam Bondi comes out and, well, you're about to see.
But perhaps we go to the beginning of where you see Pam Bondi on the hidden camera. So I'll just talk live what I said on the camera. Okay. So there she is at the White House. Go back to the beginning of that clip of her. The White House. So that was a tough one for me to publish because you asked if I'm political, and I think I'm, you have to decide who you want to be. Are you a political operative or are you a journalist? And to be a journalist, it's hard because you have to do things like this. Pam Bondi was caught in a restaurant telling a stranger, a nanny, on April 28th or so, that there are tens of thousands of videos involving little children. Now, I didn't target her. I didn't seek to get this. People send me stuff. Sometimes I have undercover people all over the country, and they happen to get a conversation in an airport. I get sent this. I'm like, holy shit. This is not public. The Attorney General of the United States, and by the way, Cash, I believe the FBI reports to her. So this is the top dog.
Yep.
Is saying to a nanny in a restaurant something that no one knows. And to me, I'm like, well, that's an interesting story, is it not? So I do what I have to do. I reach out to the Attorney General's office for comment. I say, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General of the United States, was caught in a restaurant saying, and I actually wonder whether I should have done that. I probably did him a favor by giving them the exact quotes.
Boy.
And then a few days later, she says the exact same thing publicly that I emailed the Attorney General's office for comment saying, and played the clip of her at the White House. This is what she said.
Of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn.
And this is one of the reasons why I dislike Pam Bondi sometimes. I mean, I appreciate what she's doing on the immigration front, but as far as, getting down to what we asked her to do, man, she just be slipping. And the fact that it actually took this man to expose her for saying it to some random and not the American public is quite disappointing.
Now, this is the first time an official has publicly acknowledged that videos of Epstein and his victims exist. What you may not know is just 9 days prior, the Attorney General had a very similar conversation with a total stranger in a restaurant.
Do you know when the Epstein files are going to get released?
We hope soon. The FBI's been.
Okay.
So,
any dates?
No, you know what it is? There are tons and thousands of videos.
Yeah.
And it's all with little kids. So they have to go through every one.
Pause. So it's interesting because she said it privately in a restaurant
publicly
in a restaurant, not privately.
I mean,
and to me, it's like, that's something. So I felt like I had to publish.
I feel bad for the poor soul who has to look at that shit.
This now, if she hadn't gone publicly and said this, and I had released this clip in the restaurant, it would have been a much bigger deal.
Oh yeah, bro. Trust me, we'd have been on Pam Bondi's ass. We'd have been like, "Yo, why are you saying this is something random, but you can't say this to the American people?" Hey, yo, what will happen to transparency? Yeah, we'd have held the Trump's administration feet to the fire right there and then. But this does piss me off knowing that the fact that, you only did it because somebody caught you. Okay. Well, what's going on there at the FBI?
But it does raise questions, doesn't it? Why are they not being transparent with the American people? Why are they telling a nanny in a restaurant? So it raises questions to your point about Cash. I know Cash a little bit. I think he is a good man. And I mean that. Based upon what I know about him. I don't know Dan as much, but I also think he's a good man. I don't trust the bureaucracy that reports to them. And if you put any good man and the most ethical person at the top of that bureaucracy, I think you're setting them up for failure. Let me give you a specific example of where I'm coming from. I was raided by the FBI shortly before I met you. The FBI pointed guns at me and took my reporter's notebooks. They just recently closed the case against me a few months ago, the FBI, in February of this year. And they gave me back my phones that they had for 3.5 years.
All right, guys, if you want to go ahead and finish this one, you have to go on that man PBD podcast. It was actually a pretty good one. It's about an hour, damn near 2 hours long. So go ahead and check that one out. I'm gonna go ahead and head out on this one, guys, because sun's coming up in my area. So you know your boy still gotta work. Anyway, though, appreciate the support, guys. This is Set with Set Media. Now let's get a shout out from our sponsors. And hey, man, make sure to give them a look and sign up. Trust me, it's a pretty good deal, and it is how I source most of my information. So shout out to ChatGPT and Venice AI. So I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Make sure you guys double tap that screen on the way out and like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said, this is Set with Set Media. You guys be safe out there. Have a good morning. Guys, today modern AI is quite advanced, except two problems. It is censored and it takes your information. Well, it's hard to find a tech company that don't, but let me introduce you to one. Shout out to my sponsor, Venice AI, which allows you to protect your information and avoid censorship. Now ask yourself, why should a team of programmers at these leading AI apps be the ones to decide what is okay for you to ask and think? Also, would you be comfortable if the presidential administration could govern what AI tells you? Man, I know I wouldn't. But also, while you think about that, did you know that? Let me tell you this, it's gonna be crazy, but ChatGPT has a former director of the NSA sitting on their board right now, guys. And shout out to that man, Edward Snowden. He called this a willful, calculated betrayal of the rights of every person on Earth. And we all know how Alexa is. Alexa listens to us and recommends products based on our conversations. I mean, talk about a violation of privacy. But guys, these are just a few reasons I decided to team up with Venice AI and get you a better options or solutions to your AI needs. Now, guys, you can go ahead and check these guys out with my promo code. So shout out to Venice AI. Now, if you want to use AI without fear of handing over your most intimate thoughts to a corporation or government, you can get 20% off a pro plan using my link, Venice AI SET, and use the code SET. Man, so shout out, guys. So make sure you guys use the code. Put it one more time for you guys right there. Once again, guys, you guys want to go ahead and have unleashed AI, uncensored AI, go ahead and tap in with my guys at Venice AI, guys. Hey, this is Set and appreciate the support. And shout out to the sponsor.